Just gonna take a guess that it's like right about there. Put me in the middle. Turn it off. Open up that. Howdy, everybody. We're a little bit early, but, you know, I wasn't doing anything else besides scrolling anyway. So we may as well get started. Let's hide that. There we go. Okay. Hope everybody's having a good day. I'm doing better. I'm not fully recovered. My voice is a little bit nasally. Still taking Dayquil. But, yeah. Oh, I have horrendous echo. That's weird. Where is it echoing from? It might just be one person. Okay, it was just on TikTok and it was just one person. So it was probably just lagging for them. Morning. Howdy, everybody. Hope everybody's had a good day, good morning so far. Should we bring up our first guest? We may as well. All right, let us bring up our first guest. Bosky.
Yo.
Bosky, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I just wanted to ask real quick, if you were to grant like a super deterministic model of the universe, in your view, would that affirm some type of God?
No.
Why not?
They're just not the same thing. Why would the two be related?
I mean, like, if we were to take God as an eternal cause.
So God doesn't have to have a mind? Or agency or a will?
No. Why would he?
Well, I mean, then we're just not talking about the same thing when we say the word God. That's all. I mean, if by God you just mean something that, you know, is the foundation for reality, then sure, I guess. But yeah, that's just not what most people mean.
Yeah, no, I would just take God to be some type of, like, abstract, like, metaphysically necessary first cause.
Okay. I mean, like, that's consistent with atheism, at least insofar as you can be an atheist Platonist.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, yeah, that's all I wanted to ask you.
You're good. Take care. All right, let's bring up Zion Bethel.
Hey,
Zion. Is it Zion? Is it Zion?
It's Zion. You got it.
Zion. All right. How's it going, Zion?
It's going good. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. Now, do you believe in God, Zion?
I sure do. Yes, sir.
And which God would that be?
I believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and that Jesus Christ is the physical embodiment of that entity God.
Okay. So you would say that you're a Christian?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So what would you say is the most compelling argument you could offer me? You know, I'm an atheist. That would make me think that Christianity is true.
This is something that I usually do. I split it into two different conversations between just God being at least a thinking entity that created our universe with intention and will. And then the second argument generally is why that God, that entity is Jesus Christ and why Christianity is true. So basically from a more scientific level to a specific religious thing. So at least on the first front of just, do you believe in God as a thinking, intentional being, entity? Hold on, your audio.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't think such a thing exists. At least not like such a thing that is responsible for creating or grounding our universe or something like that.
Okay, excellent. And what do you generally believe, as far as just so I can get a baseline, what do you generally believe is the cause of the existence of the universe?
I'm generally pretty agnostic about the question. I'm actually not even sure if the question is well posed. It's not clear that the universe needs a cause. Insofar as I understand causes to be temporal things, if the universe contains all of time, then it's not even a question that makes sense.
Okay, interesting. So one thing, at least the argument that I would generally make for at least an intelligent, intentional God is that generally things that are scientific are replicated in the observable world. This is generally where we get scientific mythology from, where something that's observable,
Yeah.
testable, repeatable.
Yeah.
See a lot of So like, there's nothing that's intelligently designed that doesn't have an intelligent mind behind it, if that makes sense. So you can't get something intelligent from kind of chaos, if that makes sense.
I mean, I don't see how that follows, but it's also not clear to me that anything is intelligently designed.
Well, would you would you look at the human brain and say that that's something that's designed with intention or intelligence?
No, I wouldn't.
Not perfection, because there's a difference between something being optimally designed with.
Yeah, I would say
perfection.
no.
You wouldn't say that it's intelligently designed?
No.
And why is that?
Because I don't think that it has a designer. So things that don't have designers are not designed.
Okay, fair. I mean, I guess that's an argument for another day. But let me ask you this: would you look at a laptop and say that that's intelligently designed?
Well, intelligently, that's that's begging the question, if you will. No, it's not. But yeah, of course, laptops are designed by intelligent people.
Okay, fair.
Generally.
Enough. And so, I think where we're missing each other, at least on the human mind is intelligently designed, is that you're taking the preface of that saying that, okay, it wasn't designed, therefore it can't be intelligently designed. But just let's go in a hypothetical situation. Let's say the human mind were to be designed. Would that something that you look at and okay, yeah, this is a very complex system that clearly took some intentionality and intelligence to create?
So are you asking if the brain was designed, would it have been intelligently designed?
Yeah, well, would you be able to say, okay, this is something that had to have been created, just like you said, intelligent things require an intelligent designer or creator. Like,
I don't think I said that.
Well, that was kind of like about the laptop. Like, a dumb person can't make a laptop.
No, I mean, I was basically just joking. My point is I think that the word intelligent in front of design is doing no work. If something is designed, we kind of assume that the thing that did the designing does it with intention and does it with, purpose, and that's typically what's meant by intelligent design. So, I mean, if we assume the brain is designed, then yeah, it'd be fair to say that it's intelligently designed, insofar as that's just what intelligently designed means. But I don't think that the universe is designed, that the brain is designed.
Well, and that's why I'm using the word intelligent, because like we can look at a tree until a tree has been designed, but that doesn't imply.
No, I wouldn't say a tree is designed.
Well, I guess. What would you say? Because I'm using the word for example, there is some type of creation and purpose behind it. Like trees emit oxygen.
I don't think
CO2.
that. So
like it's designed that way. That's what I mean.
So look, so there are a few things happening here. When you say that something is a creation, there's kind of two different ways that can be understood. One way it can be understood is just that it's a thing that exists. In that sense, sure, a tree is a creation. But if by creation you mean a thing that has a creator, then absolutely not. I don't think that that's the case. I don't think that a tree would be a creation. Similarly, if you are saying that it has a purpose, that typically implies the existence of intent. Right? You design something is designed with purpose. Purpose implies intent. And I don't think that there was intent behind the, development of trees. So no, I would not say, at least in the way that you're implying, that a tree is a purposeful creation.
Well, and that's why I say that it is purposeful, because you can look at the intended function of a tree and say that
you're saying that there's intended function, but that I don't grant that there's intended function.
You just think there's function.
I just think that there's function, right?
Okay, so you're kind of more on because earlier you're like, okay, I'm a little agnostic on the topic. So you're saying that you believe that function can exist without intentionality, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And I think that's where a lot of people who are atheists fall into. They're like, okay, we can look at a laptop and that was created with a function with intention versus a tree having a function with no intention.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's. I guess we're getting hung up on that, but let's move past that. This is something, at least personally, I know that because I was raised Christian, but then I fell away for a while and I became agnostic. And then after kind of going through my science class and I computer science major, I started realizing, wait a second, we generally, what we're doing as humans is replicating, and this is obviously something that we can experience more so than prove. But what we're doing is almost the replication of the universal creation, where just if you're, let's say that you're the creator of the Grand Theft Auto, when you're in that world, you're coding these things, and from nothing comes something. And in world, in the I guess the history of the world, you can see there's no elements in this world in this space. And then when you click, insert XYZ object, from nothing comes something. So that's something that we can see replicated in our even coding process. And now, since this universe exists inside of a contained, infinite space, that's something that we can see. We can almost understand God as almost like simulation theory, where we can understand God as a computer scientist who's coding our universe, where there's not going to be a lot of clear codes or things that you can point to and be like, oh, this is God because this is a miracle. Everything's going to function within the bounds of science. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm like, okay, once I started kind of understanding the programming language and how things work, that was one of the biggest things that really, I guess, allowed me to understand God as a designer. Because just as if I design a tree in a game and it's The Sims or Grand Theft Auto, they couldn't directly prove that I existed because my intellect or my mind is too great to be physically represented in the game. And so in order for them to understand who I am, there would have to be miracles and things of that sort. But just because I can't be physically represented in the game and they can't point to anything that proves I exist in the game, that doesn't inherently deny my existence. And it's almost one of those, we exist, therefore we were created type things.
Look, so it sounds like what you're saying is that if you already believe, then if you believe what you believe, then perhaps there's no inconsistencies. And maybe that's true. I don't know the full extent of what you believe. I suspect that there's some inconsistencies, but we could get into that, I suppose. But even if it's true that your beliefs are internally consistent, that doesn't mean that they're true.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying that this is something that we can see replicated and being true on a smaller scale. So if you're scaling that up, all things being consistent, there's no reason to assume that that thing wouldn't also be true at that scale.
The point is you would have to demonstrate that it is true, or at least give good reason to think that it is true, beyond just saying, hey, there's this other thing that is like the thing that I believe is happening in the real world.
So what I'm saying is that there needs to be consistency and logic across different situations in a sense. That's how you can say, okay, this is logically consistent.
Look, it just doesn't follow that because we can program computer games, that therefore we are like a computer game programmed by God. That just doesn't follow.
Well, that's, like you said, that's something that you can't prove, but it makes good sense.
So then why should anybody believe it if they don't already believe it?
Well, no, and that's what I agree, because I think that it's a matter of faith, because just the same arguments you can make right now against there being an intelligent designer named God is the same arguments a Grand Theft Auto character or a Sims character can make against their designer.
Okay, sure, but you're trying to convince somebody who doesn't already share your belief. So saying, well, if you believe, then it makes sense, is just not compelling.
Well, no, because I'm not saying it's not just if you believe. I'm saying look at the system right here that you.
Yes, so there is this thing that we created that is similar to the thing that you believe exists about our universe. That doesn't mean that that's true about our universe, and that won't be compelling to anybody who doesn't already agree with you.
And I know, and that's why I said, because just really in general, it's either like everyone has to have faith in a system no matter what you believe about the universe.
Do you think that faith is generally a good way of coming to truth about the world around us?
I think faith in certain aspects is the only thing we have in order to come to truths, or not truths, but in order to come. So if I ask you, where did the universe come from? Who made the universe? And you say the universe made itself, and I can say, prove it.
Well, to be clear, neither of those would be my answers.
Okay, well, that's what I asked you earlier, and you're like that. Well,
I said I'm agnostic. I don't have a firm belief about the origins of the universe or whether it had one. My point is that I don't know how you define faith, but faith is typically understood as belief in that which is unseen, perhaps, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And which is akin to saying belief in things without evidence. And I just don't accept that there is good reason to believe many things without evidence, right? It just doesn't seem like a good way to come to beliefs. If you want to be, perhaps more rational about it, and you don't have evidence leading you one way or the other, then just be agnostic.
And that's what I was going to say. Yeah. Because atheists and agnosticism, those are two different things. Atheism is saying, I don't believe in theism. I don't believe that there's a God. But being agnostic is saying that I don't know if there's a God or not. And there could be a God, there could not be a God. But if you're saying that I'm an atheist, you're saying that I actively do not believe there is a God.
Right.
And that's one of the things that's tricky about the situation, is because it's hard for us to prove there is a God. It's almost impossible for you all to prove there isn't a God.
Well,
Because
I mean,
how can
I
you
actually
prove
don't think that
anything
that's really the case. I think that there's really compelling reasons to think that there is no God.
Interesting.
For example, I mean, if you take God to be, and this is how it's traditionally understood, at least in the West, if you take God to be something like the creator of the universe, the cause of the universe, if you will, then the way that I understand causation is strictly a phenomenon that occurs in time. And insofar as the universe contains time, it doesn't make sense to talk about anything causing anything in the absence of time. And if God is the cause of the universe, then it would follow that God exists absent time. And so God couldn't have caused anything, as time is required for causation.
Well, no, and this is why I was using the analogy of computers, because there had to have been something that caused the first thing to happen.
Well,
And
right,
that's the thing
except that only works if you assume that there's time outside of the computer.
Well, I mean, that's
right.
That's
I mean, the only reason a programmer can program a computer is because a programmer exists in time and is able to do things, right?
Yeah.
But,
well, no, I'm
but
not
the
denying
analogy fails when you're talking about something that doesn't exist in time, because then it can't do anything. Time is what's required for things to happen.
Well, no, because I think you're misconstruing an argument for God. We're saying that God exists outside of our time.
Oh, so you're saying you believe that God exists in say God time?
I would say that it's something that that's a conversation for another day. Because
no, that's critical to the conversation that's happening now. If you think that God exists inside of God time, say, then what created God time?
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. That's going beyond that we're going into something that exists outside of our universe. So right now we're talking about just
no, but this is critical, because if you're talking about something that exists in some other kind of time, then it's just not the creator of the entirety of physical reality, right? And then it just sounds like you're just not talking about a God anymore.
Well, no, hear me out, because if I'm the coder of Grand Theft Auto, I am the god of that universe.
You're not a god. You're just a guy. You obey laws of physics. You were born. You'll die. You can get sick. You can get maybe we just have different understandings of what we mean by God. But by God, I mean a non-physical thing responsible for the creation of all of physical reality.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
That doesn't just mean our little patch of space-time. That means all of physical reality.
But that's what I'm saying. All of physical reality exists in a container called space-time. And so what I'm saying is that
then there can't be time outside of all of physical reality.
No, I mean, that's a misnomer. Because that's what I'm telling you. We have evidence to prove that, because just like if you want to go into whatever you want to go into, we have micro and mini universes that we create that are infinite. It's like I said, if you're familiar, are you familiar?
And they're not the entirety of physical reality.
Are you familiar with simulation theory?
I'm very familiar with it, unfortunately.
Fair enough. So that's essentially one of my arguments.
Right,
but
the point is if we are in a simulation, that's not the entirety of physical reality. The simulation is not all of physical reality, because there's more physical reality outside of it.
But hold on, you're not thinking big enough. If I can say that.
I think that you're not thinking big enough. I'm considering all of physical reality. That includes the simulation, and it includes the person doing the simulating. If they follow physical laws, then they're part of physical reality.
But okay. So this is why I think you're not thinking big enough. It's because all of physical reality has to be in a container. So the infinite.
Well, hold on. To be clear, I think that that's probably a category error. But continue.
Okay, fair enough. All of the infinite universe has to fit in a container, And if you want to get into multiverse theory, there's a whole lot of things you can get into. But all of these things fit into a container called space-time. And so what I'm saying is that God is the kind of OG, because I believe that we as humans almost have this God. We're made in the image of God according to Christianity, and we replicate God's creative abilities to where we're creating things as well. And so when we look at it, like I said, faith is just believing in the evidence of the unseen. So we're looking at things that we do and we're saying, if I was a thinking person, just like if I have kids, my kids almost replicate my behavior. We're replicating God's behavior of creation. So when we make these little like computer programs and there's an infinite world in that program, we're almost acting in a way that God would, in a way that God did. And now we can look at that as evidence for the unseen and say, okay, the way we can create a universe that's infinite and that we can look into and say, oh, we can exist in there because our minds are too great to exist in that. But if I want to join this universe, I have to come into this universe by the means in which I created it.
I don't see how this is addressing my objection.
Well, no, I'm addressing the objection because you're saying that essentially there's God time, and you're kind of...
If you're suggesting that there's God time and that God is a simulator that obeys laws of physics, then that's just not what I mean by God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. And I guess... Hold on, say that.
And it's also not what you mean by God either.
Yeah, no, when I say God, I'm talking about just the limits of our physical reality. So our physical reality...
Okay, so your God could be consistent with just an alien that programmed our computer or programmed our simulation?
I mean,
like a guy named Jeff who lives in his mom's basement who programmed it on his 5-dimensional PC?
I'm saying you're still thinking from a dimensional space of like, okay, I believe that we are base reality in the sense of there's not like a guy like you or me who are...
Okay, if we are base reality, then there's not God time in which God exists to have caused our universe. There's no reality external to ours. Everything that exists is either within our universe or it is abstract, metaphysical, supernatural, non-physical.
Exactly.
If that's the case, then there's no time. Time is a physical thing. It's at least like a physical. It's at least like a physical substrate, if you will.
I guess, yeah. And this is my issue: is that you're claiming to be agnostic, but then you're trying to make objective.
I'm agnostic about the origins of the universe. I'm not agnostic about whether God exists.
Okay, fair enough. So you're saying that okay, fair enough. Well, my whole thing is this: is that you're trying to define terms that are supernatural, and you're like, oh, so how does God move around if there's no time? Because time's a physical. I'm like, yeah, God's supernatural. He exists outside of our understanding of what God is.
I don't take supernatural to mean outside of our understanding of nature. I take supernatural to mean outside of nature, beyond nature, above nature, if you will.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Can you understand something that's outside of scientific understanding?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like mathematics is not scientific.
Mathematics is science, something that's observable, testable.
No, it's not. Mathematics. If mathematics was science, it wouldn't be considered as a separate letter in STEM.
I mean, when I say science, I'm talking about like the scientific method.
You don't use the scientific method when doing mathematics.
Well, I'm saying it's something as far as like science, like this is something that we can observe as being true. Like I can test math to make sure that it's true. That's what I mean by scientific.
I don't know what you mean by test math. Like when we talk about doing the scientific method, we're talking about doing experiments or making observations, right? It's not really what you do.
2 plus 2 is 4. And I can prove that repeatedly every time. 2 plus 2 will never be anything.
Yeah, but you don't need to. You only need to do it once.
Exactly, but I'm saying like if I have 2 things and I grab it, now if I grab 2 sets of 2 things, I have 4 items. I'm saying that's something that's observable that I can test and repeat. So I'm saying like it's not like...
I think that this is probably not related to the conversation, but I mean, suffice it to say, like you would get a lot of pushback if you made the claim that mathematics was scientific. Anyway,
okay,
it's perhaps not really related. The point is that like it's not clear to me that the God that you believe in, I don't think is like a God that exists in God time and is like programming a computer and then like lives in a basement and is an incel or whatever. That's not the God you believe in, but that's the God you're trying to defend right now, which seems kind of disingenuous.
No. That's not the God I'm trying to defend.
Okay, so does the God that you believe in, is that a God that exists in its own version of time?
I believe that God exists in a way that we are unable to understand. Because if we could, he wouldn't be God, like you're saying. And to your point, you're saying that if
Does
God
that doesn't really
exists,
answer my question?
no, it does. You said, does God
So,
is God?
I mean, my understanding of what causation is that causation is a thing that happens within time. So, if you're saying that God exists, God caused our universe to exist, are you saying that that God exists within time?
He exists outside of our time.
Okay, does he exist within a sense of time?
That's what I'm saying. I'm unable to prove that because I'm not God and I'm also not
It seems
dead.
like
So
you're
I don't know.
obligated to believe that if you want causation to be a meaningful concept.
Well, I think that what you're trying to do is box me in a corner to limit God by the physicality of our universe. You're saying that because we need time to exist, God must also need
No,
time
we
to
need
exist.
time for causation to happen. You could have a timeless universe. There just wouldn't be anything that happens,
There wouldn't
right?
be any motion. Exactly. Well, that's what
There'd
I
be
mean,
no
like
causation,
existence.
right? So
Exactly. So what I'm saying is
I
that
don't
you're
understand
trying to
what
limit.
causation means absent time. If you can give me a definition, that'd be great.
Exactly. And that you hit the nail on the head. What I'm saying is that we don't know what God, because he's all powerful, all knowing, omniscient, all these different properties that literally supersede our understanding of physics and science, since you want to go there, it supersedes that. And so I'm
Okay, so
saying
then
these are things that
can you
can't be
explain what you
understood.
mean when you say that God caused the universe to exist?
I'm saying he was the person that put the universe into motion. He's the one.
Okay,
He's
so
the initial
all of
person that
those
caused
things,
time to be time.
that entire phrasing sounds like what you're saying is that God exists in time.
No, because you can exist
Okay, can you give me a
outside of something.
non-temporal sense in which God caused the universe into existence?
I'll do you one better. I'll give you a physical example of how a superior being can exist outside of a local time. So, like I said,
I
when you're
know I
coding
need a
computer-
non-temporal description of how God can
Well, no,
cause the universe to exist.
And this is what I'm saying. You're trying to box me in a corner of explaining something supernatural.
There's two options here. Either God exists within some kind of time, in which case God can cause causation, or can, like, obviously cause something to happen, because, you know, once you're in time, then cause is no problem. Or God does not exist in some kind of time, in which case I need an explanation as to what that even means. That's a true dichotomy.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, it's not a true dichotomy. Alternatively, God could just not exist, right?
Okay, fair enough. To your point, my whole point is this: is that God exists in a space that supersedes our understanding of how physicality and time and everything works. We know we need time temporally in order to have movement.
Okay, then what do you mean by God causes the universe to exist? What does that mean? In a non-temporal sense, give me a description of what that means.
Well, I'll give an analogy that, like I said, just let me finish it.
Will the analogy be non-temporal?
It'll be an analogy that if you hear it to the end, you'll at least understand where I'm coming from.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. My whole point is this, is that God exists, or excuse me, just as if we can create worlds and that have a separate local time than we have. That's the same way God can create and cause something. So, for example, I can exist at a single point and moment in time and go back and forth in time in any type of computer system I make. I can go forward, I can go backwards. That time is irrelevant to me because we experience time linearly. So from beginning to end. God doesn't experience time linearly like we do because he's the author of time in our local universe. And universe meaning everything there is.
Okay, that's great. But the analogy you gave was describing something doing the creating in a type of time, right? Like you created a video game or you created a simulation, but you exist in time. So the analogy fails unless you're saying that God exists in some kind of time. Maybe not our time, but some kind of time.
Well, I'm saying it's not a one-to-one analogy because there's things that
okay, so that's the critical point that I need an explanation for. I need an explanation for how God cannot exist in any kind of time and yet is still able to cause things. If you give me an example or an analogy of something that exists in time and then causes things, that doesn't answer the question.
Well, this is what I'm saying. You're making a point to say, oh, okay, does God have time? Does he exist in That's irrelevant to the point.
It's no, that is the only thing that's relevant, because look, either God doesn't exist in time, in which case God cannot, in any sense of time, in which case it doesn't make sense to me to say that God caused anything, or God does exist in time, in which case causation is no issue. So if you want to say that God doesn't exist in time, in any kind of time, then you need to explain what it means for God to create.
Well, hold on. I never said he didn't exist in any type of time.
Okay, so does he exist in a kind of time? Maybe not our time, but some kind of time?
Exactly. I mean, potentially, yes, sure.
Okay, so then where did that time come from?
Well, hold on. But listen, this is what I'm saying is that that's something I don't understand, because we're talking about magnitudes of orders of magnitudes of higher dimensional beings than we're able to even process. So, like, this conversation is irrelevant.
No, this conversation is super relevant. So if God exists in some kind of time, whatever kind of time that is, where did that time come from? Did it always exist? Was it created? Why does it exist?
What I'm saying is that we're talking about a hypothetical of an analogy.
This isn't a hypothetical of an analogy. This is what you are required to believe if you grant that causation requires some notion of temporality.
Well, see, what you're saying is, in order to believe in something, you don't have to understand it. You just have to see proof of its existence. And so
How did I say that?
point is this. No, I'm saying that. I'm saying that because just like I believe this laptop in front of me exists, I don't need to know how this laptop works. You're like, well, do you believe that there's RAM in that laptop? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there not. All I know is that it works.
Okay, so, but you understand that this is a true dichotomy. If the God exists, then it either exists in some kind of time or it doesn't exist in any kind of time. That's a true dichotomy. You understand that, right?
No, hold on. I'm saying probably, but that's something we can never understand.
That's a true dichotomy. This isn't a probably. It's either or. It can't be. It can't. There's no other option.
Well, listen. I'm not saying it is or isn't. What I'm saying is that if it must exist,
those are the two options that you have. It's either A or not A.
Hold on. Let me finish. I'm saying that the whole point is that whether or not it exists, I don't know, and I don't care, because that doesn't disprove
Okay, I
that
do
God
care.
exists.
This is my primary objection. I do care, because either answer doesn't make any sense.
And this is what I'm saying is that if I were to say God has always existed, what would you say to that?
Always existed in time or outside of time?
Well, this is what I'm saying. When there is no time, there is just you exist.
Look, so one sec. Look, so if God exists in time, then I just need to know, okay, where did that time come from? Did God cause it to exist? If God didn't cause it to exist, then it seems like God didn't cause everything to exist. If God did cause it to exist, well, then how did God cause something to exist in which God exists himself?
Well, so this is what I'm saying is that, once again, so I'll argue with you. I'll play your game here in a second, but I'm going to make this point again. Once again, we're trying to understand something that supersedes our understanding of even what existence means. And so that's something that is a super hypothetical that we're never going to find an answer to. But to play your game, if I say, okay, yeah, God exists in a time and he is Jeff in the basement, does that make him less God?
Yes.
No, because
then he's not responsible for all of physical reality.
Well, no. He's responsible for all of our reality.
Okay, but that's just not what I mean by God. That would be consistent with a super intelligent alien that was born, will die, can get sick. I don't think that the God that you believe in is something that is born or can die or can get sick or obeys laws of physics.
I'll take it a step further. Let's say hypothetically, to at least, like I say, ease your thing. Let's say he's an AI, a super AI agent that exists. Let's say even within the universe in the space he created, but exists outside of our temporal understanding of linear movement. So we go
if it exists within the universe if it exists within our universe, then it can't be responsible for creating our universe.
Well, hold on, hear me out. What I'm saying, and that's false, because I can have an AI agent and a computer simulation that can create a whole program for me. So
but the AI didn't create the simulation. The AI is part of the simulation, right?
But no, I'm saying the AI can also be a part of and create at the same time. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive.
Well, so it can create the simulation and then insert itself into it, but that means that the AI predated the simulation, right? It existed before it. Exactly. In which case, the AI existed before, meaning temporally prior to the universe, which means that it existed in time.
Oh, okay, and that's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. I'm playing your game and saying, yes, it can exist in time, yet supersede time.
Yeah, it might supersede our notion of proper time in our universe, but that doesn't mean that it is outside all notions of time, that it exists in a non-temporal sense. That's the issue. If
Well,
God
hold on.
exists outside of time, if God exists atemporally, then God can't cause anything. That's the issue.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that just like there's higher dimensional beings, because if you want to talk about, hypothetical and theoretical science, there's up to like 12 dimensions. And those dimensions exist outside, or at least they're not affected by time in the same way we are, because space-time is one thing. However, traveling through time in space can be something totally different. You can be a being that can exist in dimensions where time doesn't affect you the way it does us as three-dimensional beings.
I don't think that you're understanding my objection.
What's your objection?
My objection is that suppose that there's like a different time continuum that's like, call it like meta time or super time or whatever, right? It's like an external, like imagine that like our time is like a loaf of bread, and then there's just like what the clock is doing, where the loaf of bread is sitting. So the loaf of bread is just the loaf of bread. One slice is our Big Bang, and the end slice is like, the Big Crunch or whatever. But that loaf of bread is just sitting in a bakery, and the bakery has a clock in it, and that bakery's clock is spinning, which is separate from the loaf of bread that marks the different moments of our time.
Yes.
But the point is the bakery still has time in it. So that's why the bakery can still bake a loaf of bread.
Exactly.
If you're saying God is like the baker, then God exists in time. It's not our time, but it's some kind of time, which means that it exists in some sort of physical reality. Maybe it's not our physical reality, but it exists in a physical reality, in which case, where did it come from? What created that time? Did God create that time? Is God responsible for it?
Okay, so stepping out of, because that was just me playing ball with you to kind of try to, I guess, kind of help you through some of the objections you had. But stepping back to my actual belief in my argument is that you're trying to apply your understanding of our universe to a God who exists outside of our universe. And I'm saying that doesn't work because you're trying to essentially make God man. You're saying, okay, God's just either, like you said, some guy in a basement who coded us, or God has to be some type of entity that is either affected by our way of understanding the universe. And I'm letting you know that God is not he doesn't exist in that same aspect. He doesn't.
I'm not assuming that he's like us. I'm saying that in order for causation to happen at all, there has to be time.
And that's what I'm saying. That's something that you're assuming on.
Okay, then give me an explanation of causation absent time.
Once again, that explanation that I could give you could only be within the bounds of our knowledge of our universe.
So it sounds like you're saying you can't give me an explanation for how causation works absent time.
But does that mean it doesn't exist?
It means that it's irrational to believe that it does.
I wouldn't say irrational. I would say that means that
if there is no way that you can explain how something works, and yet you still believe that thing works, I would say that that's pretty irrational.
No. Hold on. Just like with the laptop. Do you know how? Let me ask you this. Do you know how the CERN Large Hadron Collider works?
It is a bad choice. I do.
No. Oh, okay, fair enough. Do most people?
Most people don't. But the point is there is an explanation for these things.
No, exactly. But they just don't know it.
Right. So but there are people who do know it, right? And it's in principle knowable. But you're saying that this isn't even in principle knowable.
No, not for humans. So my whole point is that while yes, there are people, we as human beings, because there's entities that are, that I believe that exist outside of the human form, like angels, demons, things like that. So just because we don't understand it doesn't mean that it's something that's unknowable. I'm saying the whole reason that we believe is because the evidence of it being there. So just like a mid-century man doesn't have to understand how the wind works to know that the wind is real. He can't see it.
Well, but he has other evidence that the wind is real, right? He has other reasons to believe it aside from the way that it functions.
Exactly. He feels the effects.
Right. But we don't have that. And what I'm saying is not only do we not have reason to believe that the thing exists, we actually now have good reason to believe that such a thing is impossible.
No. Hold on. And this is where we get into the Christianity of it. Because you said we don't have you don't have evidence that it exists. I do, because
I'm pretty sure you said earlier that there isn't evidence. That's why it requires faith. But I could be paraphrasing you.
That was a totally different argument. I said there's no the evidence that we can point to physically, like what you're asking for, like, point to God. How does God work? I'm like, there's no evidence on that aspect, but we know God is real by his effect in the world. And so what my whole point is this is where the Christianity comes into it. I have evidence that God exists, especially in my life, because I've seen how he's worked in my life in supernatural ways that can't be explained in the physical. And so those are things where it's like, there has to be an intelligent person out there who's all-knowing, omniscient, all-powerful in order for these things to happen, because I'm having this experience. And while I may not understand how it works, I'm very cognizant of the fact that this is something that supersedes what nature is able to do from a scientific perspective.
Can I show you
So
something?
that's what, oh, sure. Yeah. And
One
I see
sec.
people saying anecdotal, but this, why is Christianity one of the biggest?
You don't want to make
religions?
that argument. Okay, so can you see this?
Well, no. It's going here. There you go. What is P1? What do you mean, position 1?
Okay, it's premise 1. This is a syllogism.
Oh,
premise 1, a cause
yeah.
is prior to or simultaneous to its effects. Do you agree?
Hold on. Okay, yes.
Okay, premise 2. If P stands for anything. If P is prior to or simultaneous to Q, then P exists within time. Do you agree?
According to our physical understanding of the universe, sure.
Okay, so you're rejecting P2.
Well, no. I said sure.
Well, I mean, do you accept P2 applies universally, or only in some subset of
and this is what
reality?
I'm saying. When I say you're not thinking big enough, when I say universally, I think our universe.
I mean universally, as in it applies in all senses.
All senses in our universe.
No,
yes.
I'm not. Stop qualifying it. I'm asking you a question. Does it apply in all senses? I'm not qualifying P2 at all. I'm not saying if P is prior to or simultaneous to Q in our universe. I'm saying if P is prior to or simultaneous to Q, period.
I disagree with that then, yeah.
Okay, so we can justify this. If P is prior to or simultaneous to Q, then there exists a temporal ordering. Or actually, we can rephrase this. If P is prior to Q, then there exists a temporal ordering, namely first P, then Q. P 2.2. If P is simultaneous to Q and Q exists in time, then P exists in time. So conclusion 2.1 or conclusion, 2.1. If P, so then we have that if P is prior to or simultaneous to Q, then either there exists a temporal ordering in which P and Q reside, or P exists in time. Conclusion 2.2, if P resides in a temporal ordering, then P exists in time. Conclusion 2.3, if P is prior to or simultaneous to Q, then P exists in time. Do you have any disagreements with any of these?
I mean, what is your point with this?
To demonstrate that if something is a cause, then it exists within time.
But I mean, that's not even the point I was trying to make.
It's the point I'm trying to make.
I know, but I'm saying, yes, sure, all these things can be right within our universe.
I'm not talking within our universe. I don't know why you're qualifying these statements. Nothing in these statements apply only within our universe. I'm making these statements absolutely universally.
So I guess this is my point, is that there is a dimension and a space that exists outside of what our known universe that doesn't abide by the rules of our universe.
Okay, so sense. So P2, so P2 is defended by this argument here. So you accepted P1. You said that P2, you don't accept P2, that you don't accept that P2 applies universally. Absolutely, right? So let's look at the argument to defend P2.
P2 applies universally.
By universally, I mean in entirety with no exception. Absolutely. I don't mean universally as in within our universe.
Okay, yeah. So I disagree with that because I
believe that there's
existences.
So let's talk about the defense for P2. If P is prior to Q, then there exists a temporal ordering, namely first P, then Q. Do you agree with this?
Yes.
Okay. If P is simultaneous to Q and Q exists in time, then P exists in time. Do we agree with that?
Yeah, okay. I understand what you're saying. Your whole point with this is essentially say that if God exists and he was the initial cause, the causer of our universe, then he exists in a time, therefore he's not God, because then who created that time? You're trying to basically pull it up, 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 up. And I'm saying that I'm rejecting P2 because P2 only makes sense within our universe. And you're
Right,
trying
right.
to say,
So
well,
hold on. Before we get into that, this is an argument. This is a deductive argument for P2. So
I know. Once again, it's what you're doing all this for no reason, because I'm letting you know
this has
that,
reason.
well, no reason to my argument, but okay.
So look, you're not making the argument here. I'm the one making the argument. You asked me what the reason was why I think that there is no God rather than just being agnostic, and so I provided an argument, and so this is relevant for my argument, right?
Yeah, this is relevant to the argument, like you said, where like, does God have his own time? And I said possibly. I said, and I'm not disagreeing.
Okay,
with
if he exists within time, then it's just not a God, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's from your understanding, because you don't know if he made the time he's in.
I think that's probably not coherent.
Well, once again, like you said, you're agnostic on the origins of the universe, and I'm saying
no. I think it's not coherent to say that a thing created itself, because a creation requires the existence of the thing in order that did the creating, right?
Whoa. So hold on, you just made a great point. You said, I think it's absurd to say a thing created itself. Right. So what is your best ideal for how the universe came into existence?
I'm agnostic about it. I'm not even sure if the universe did come into existence. It's not clear at all to me that the universe didn't exist eternally.
So that's what I'm saying. I know being agnostic means you don't know, but what do you think as an intelligent person?
I don't hold a firm position.
I didn't say, I'm not asking for a firm position. I'm just asking for your opinion.
I don't have a position that I can give you here.
You don't have any guesses for how the universe came? I
could speculate, but I don't believe one is more likely than another.
But hold on. Okay. So to my whole point, because my whole point with the time thing, I'm like, yeah, sure, maybe there's God time, maybe God exists. Maybe it is, maybe I'm agnostic on that, where I'm like, I don't know. But you just made a very objective statement where you said that a thing cannot create itself. Yeah. And so to your point,
I can give you. Well, look. So I think that the universe can have a first moment without being created.
Hold on. This is crucial here, because if you think a thing cannot create itself, then what created the universe?
Well, I don't think that the universe was created.
Then how the universe exists?
I think that the universe. I don't think that there was ever nothing.
So you think that it just always existed?
Either in a temporal sense or in a non-temporal sense, yes.
Oh, okay. So you're
either one. I'm not clear. I'm not clear.
But hold on. So you're basically arguing my point, except your point is that the universe is God, and my point is that God is a separate thing.
Here's the thing: we have positive reason. No, I'm not going to let you finish. We have positive reason to think that the universe does exist. We don't have positive reason to think that God does exist. And furthermore, I'm offering an argument that suggests that God does not exist.
No. And so this is I hear your point with that. That's fair enough. And so that's the whole thing, is that we can experience God and see that God exists because we know that a thing cannot create itself. Something can exist.
That doesn't follow.
What are you talking about? You just
it doesn't follow that just because a thing cannot create itself, therefore God exists.
Well, no, that wasn't my conclusion. Hold on, let me finish. I'm saying that because
you did just say that.
Well, no, I was getting to a point. I was kind of
Go ahead, make a point.
But I say that because we know that God, or excuse me, that things just can't create themselves. Something exists, therefore it has to have been created.
No, that doesn't follow.
Because if something can't create itself,
it could have always existed, for exsample, or it could have existed non-temporally.
No, hold
on.
And
that could have given rise to a temporal universe, or to a temporal state.
I said that about God. I said God has always existed, and you said, "Well, that doesn't make sense."
I didn't say that. No, I said that God couldn't have created itself.
Well, no, because I was saying that your whole point was that in order for God to cause something to happen, he would have to exist in some type of temporal time, whether ours or God time or whatever.
Yep.
And I was saying that he just always existed, but he still has the effect to create things.
Yeah, so he could have always existed within God time. The question then is, does God time have an origin? If God time doesn't have an origin, then that means that God didn't create everything.
Well, no, I'm saying God time is just a construct that we're using to describe how God can function,
It's the thing that God
irrespective of the
exists within that
effects.
allows God in order to that allows God to take causal actions.
I know, but my whole point is this: is that because we don't understand how God time works, we can't hold it by the
Well,
same
God time.
boundaries of
So I
holding
mean, we're just
regular time.
defining
That's why we're
time
talking about
as like we can define time as a sequence of events.
that. Okay.
And so,
Yeah,
God time would
yeah.
just be some kind of sequence that, maybe it flows from past to present to future, something like this. Some sequence of events that either doesn't have an origin, in which case God is not the creator of it, or it does have an origin, in which case it can't be that God is within God time and was never outside of God time, because then God would have created the thing that God itself is required to exist.
Yeah. So
It just doesn't work. You can't have it both ways.
I know, but I'm saying like when Christians when we reference and say God exists outside of time, we're talking about our time. So
Okay,
I'm
so
not
then you're
denying
saying
there
that
isn't a
God could
God.
exist in God could exist in God time, and then God didn't create God time.
Well, no, hold on, because his existence is what created time, if that makes sense. And that's what I'm saying. Like
I
we're
don't know how
arguing
the
hypothetical.
existence of something creates something.
Yeah, because for example, if there's nothing, there is no time. But as soon as you exist, now it
Yeah,
starts the
but
timeline.
so I don't see how it follows that something existing means that there exists time as well.
Well, because in order to cause things, we know that God can cause things.
Well, no, you
So
could
it's
just
like,
have things existing atemporally.
well, no. I'm saying from like a Christian perspective, we know that God is the original creator of the universe. It's in the beginning. So God acknowledges that there's time and that He's doing things and that He's
So
moving through
he's in
time.
God time. So he's not responsible for creating God time.
Well, no. I'd say that I believe He is, because I believe He's always
So
existed outside of our
did
time.
God ever exist absent God time?
So did God ever exist absent God time? Okay, so possibly. I don't know. Maybe
Well, hold on. Let's think about the two options, right? Either God did exist absent God time, in which case God couldn't have given rise to God time, because again, we have an issue of God not being in time, so God can't create things. Or God never existed absent God time, in which case God didn't create God time.
Well, I think that you're just, like I said, we're trying to explain supernatural things with our limited knowledge, and I don't think we're ever going to come to a conclusion on that. So I think that that's the problem. Is that
Look,
you're
if you're
trying
telling me
to.
that there is no possible way for a human to understand and make sense of this thing that is supposed to exist, then that just seems like it's a good reason to not believe it exists.
No, because we talked about earlier, not a lot of people watching right now understand how the Large
Right,
Hadron
but in
Collider works.
principle, that
Well,
can be known. It can be known by people.
But hear me out. And
That's
hear me out.
learnable, right?
Well, then I think that because we don't know what happens when we die, I believe we go to meet God. I think a lot will be understood once we die.
So
So just
you're
because
telling me that oh, we can't know it while we're alive. So it just seems like it's a good reason to not believe it while you're alive.
well, no, I'm saying that it can't be fully understood because we exist in a very limited
Yeah,
world that
okay.
we only know the
It
physics of the
seems like a
world we live
perfectly
in.
good reason to not believe it exists.
No, that's not a good reason to not believe, because my whole
Sure
point
it
is
is.
this: is that we still know God exists by the evidence of
What's the
His
evidence?
existence. The first evidence is, like you said, things cannot exist unless they were created, unless they always existed. And then you said that, do you believe the universe has always existed?
Well, I would say that the universe either has an eternal past, or it has a timeless past.
Well, I mean, infinite, if it's infinite or timeless, that means it's always existed. That's like saying infinity.
I make a distinction between, like, I wouldn't say that if there's a timeless past, then it's not, like, it always is like a temporal word. So I'm making a distinction here.
Okay, well, okay, that's what I'm saying.
But
If it
yeah,
has a
I mean,
timeless
so
past,
I
like,
would
you know
make the
what I
claim
mean.
that nothing, that there was never nothing, right?
Okay, exactly. And so, perfect analogy, because I believe that God is something that exists in that same sense. And so, like I
Sure,
said,
I understand that that's what you believe, but the point is you said that there's evidence which gives us reason to believe.
well, there's no
And you
evidence
brought
that
up
the universe is timeless.
there's
Or
evidence that the universe exists, right?
well, no. We're talking about the actual function of it being timeless, because obviously
Look,
the universe exists.
so there's evidence that the universe exists. We can agree on this, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about that.
Okay, so we agree that there's evidence that the universe exists. Once we have
talking
that
about the
belief,
origins.
please, I'm in the middle of a sentence. Once we have that belief, then we can go ask, okay, well, how did it get here? Did it have an origin? Did it not have an origin? Fine. Then we can start investigating that. And if there's evidence for one position or another, then you can believe that thing. If there's not evidence, then just be agnostic agnostic like I am. On the other hand, we don't even have the evidence that your God exists. So we can't even come to the conclusion that the God exists before we start asking where it came from.
Well, hold on. This is why I said that the whole point is not does the universe exist, because we know the universe exists. We are living in it. That's obvious. My whole point is that we're acknowledging the origins of the universe. Was it something that was created, or like it has a beginning, or is it something that has a timeless past? Because that function of the universe, either A, being created or having a timeless past,
No,
is critical.
sorry, you
Hold
misrepresented my
on.
view. My view is not
Well,
that it
no,
was either created or it has a timeless past. My view is that either it has a timeless past or it has an eternal past.
Well, no. Okay, fair enough. So that's your position. But I'm saying that, like you said, a true dichotomy, it's either was created and it has a beginning, or, which is one of the popular beliefs. I mean, whether or not you agree with it, that's fair enough. But my whole point is this, is that either it has and this is the true dichotomy, either it is timeless or it has a timeless past, or it was created and it has a beginning. Those are the two options, the bifurcated moment. So what I'm saying is that in one of those options, because we believe that a thing cannot create itself, if it has a beginning, that automatically implies that there's a creator, because things cannot create itself, correct?
Look, so there is an option, and then when we investigate that option, we get to something that is nonsense, right?
Well, no.
That's the whole point of the argument that I've laid out, that you end up with something that is that cannot be made sense of, and so you should discard that option.
So what I'm saying is that I'm bifurcating here, because there are only two options. It's either it has a beginning or it's timeless. Those are literally
those are not the no. I mean, you're misunderstanding again. Like it. So under my view, look. So the two options are either it was created or it was not created. And so we can look at those two options. We know that the universe exists.
But if it was created, it has a beginning.
Not necessarily. Like
Name one
Aquinas,
thing
I think
that was created.
I think it was Aquinas thought that the Bible was consistent with the universe having always existed.
But hold on, name one thing that was created that doesn't have a beginning.
Look, so it could be that the universe that every day has a prior day, and God just created all of them.
I mean, like instantaneously created all the days. Yeah. Okay.
So the universe, so it's either created or not created. That's the point. And the point is if you examine the created notion, well, then you run into the issue of the argument that I brought up. And what it comes down to is either this God is contradictory, or this God cannot be made sense of by living humans, in which case it seems like that's a good reason to discard that as an option.
Well, hold on. See, that's what I'm saying, is that you're moving the goalposts, because initially what we were talking about was the origins of the universe either being timeless or having a fixed point. That's what we were talking about initially.
I don't know what you mean by a fixed point.
Like it has a time where we say it was created on this day, and then everything else, followed.
No, those aren't the two options. There's either a timeless past or an eternal past. Those are the two options that I believe in, that I think are possible.
No, I'm not talking about what you believe in. I'm talking about what we were discussing, because I was like, do you believe the universe was great? You're like, no, I think it has a timeless or eternal past. Those are like two of the same things in my head. Like, that's like, either way, it's always existed.
It's not well, no, I mean, a timeless past didn't always exist, but because but fine, that's perhaps a semantic distinction. The point is,
that's what I'm saying. I'm trying not to be pedantic.
Look, so the point is if you're giving me something that we don't have positive evidence for it existing, right? Like, we have positive evidence that the universe exists. If you're giving me something that we don't have positive evidence for it existing, and positing its existence relies on believing in something that we can't make sense of, then it seems like we have good reason to not believe that thing.
Okay, and this is what I'm saying, that of course, not everyone has the same experience, and I think that it is a very anecdotal thing, because we believe in God, and like I said, this goes to the oh wow, thank you. I don't even know what that means, but but we have evidence of God's existence, and this goes into the more religious conversation, because like I do try to split it into two. The more religious one is why we believe in God, is because there's the evidence of something that's unseen impacting us. And so when we experience these things, we're like, whoa, this has to be something supernatural.
Okay, so what's that evidence?
Hold on. When we say God from a scientific standpoint, we're just referring to the mind behind the code and the computer science and everything.
So what's the evidence?
The evidence is how he works in our lives. For example, there's a lot of supernatural things that can happen to somebody that it's like, this is the chances of this happening are like 1 in a Googleplex. And it's like, this is impossible to happen. I could live a billion lifetimes and this would never happen.
Zion, How
It's
do
like
you?
it's like
What do you think?
moments like those.
So look, the odds of winning the lottery are like 1 in a few million, and yet
But
people win the lottery
I know
every week.
That's
right?
not the odds I'm talking about.
Every 1 in a million thing that happens 8,000 times a day.
Yeah. Because there's multiple people. I know.
Because there's 8 billion people.
I know. What I'm saying is that, for example, God changing my life. Like, this is, I guess, more of my testimony.
Do you think that lives can't change without God?
Well, hear me out. Have you ever been to AA? Have you ever been to Alcoholics Anonymous?
Oh,
and that's
Zion,
something that.
Are you an alcoholic?
I am. Well, yes.
I don't want to convince you that God doesn't exist then.
Well, don't do that. I mean, it's not about that. I mean, I'm fine. Trust me. And this is what I'm saying. There's nothing you could convince me because I've experienced it. And so this isn't like up for debate in my mind. Like, oh man, scientifically, I'm like, no, it's not even a question because God has moved in my life. And what I'm saying is that these are things that are taught because people are so lost and they can't change and all these different things. This is something that they teach in AA, is that they're like, hey, whether it's God, whether it's Jesus Christ, whatever it is, you have to believe in this force that can change your life. Because this is something that is real. And I mean, try talking to anyone who used to be an alcoholic.
My general view is that beliefs being helpful. I can 100% agree with you that, you know, a belief in God has improved your life significantly. Beliefs being helpful, though, doesn't point to their truth.
Okay,
right.
So,
it could be the case. It could very well be the case that, you know, there's some religion that nobody's come up with yet, nobody's thought of yet. But if you just believe that religion, your life just gets so much better. Like it just changes the way you conceive of things and changes your viewpoint. That's possible. It doesn't mean that religion is true, right?
Let me make a quick point. Let's say the lottery. Like you said, the lottery is something that people all over the world are like, oh, I play the lottery, and like, if you know someone who's won the lottery, that's not the lottery happening to you. But that anecdotal experience for me where I won the lottery, they're like, oh, the lottery is a scam. Nobody ever gets paid. Everyone that you hear that gets paid out, it's a myth. They never get the money, whatever.
It's not, but nobody says that.
Well, no, it's a hypothetical. Just hear me out. It's a hypothetical.
Okay.
But I'm saying that if I were to be like, oh, I don't believe in the lottery because I've never won. And then I win the lottery, and then someone else comes up to me and says, oh, I don't believe in the lottery. I think it's fake. I think it's a scam. There's nothing you could tell me because I won the lottery. And in the same way in a Christian's life,
well, yeah, wait, hold on.
People come up and they try to...
But there is something that if you won the lottery, there is something that you could tell me. You could show me the receipt. You can just prove it. Like, yeah, here's the check that the government sent me that I cashed, and here's my bank account, and that would be that. I'd be like, I guess the government did give you money.
Well, no, but hold on. This is what you don't understand is that people who don't, there's confirmation bias. People who don't want to believe in God, they'll disregard anything that supports it, and they'll take in anything that's. So I could be like, oh yeah, your grandpa gave you that money. That wasn't lottery. Oh,
well, no, I mean, if it was signed from the government, then you'd have good reason to believe that the government gave you the money.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So like, if it just goes into your account and it just says, oh, you know, just deposit, and it doesn't say from the lottery.
Well, yeah, then you wouldn't have very compelling evidence. But for the real lottery, you would have really compelling evidence, right? You would have a check from the government, and it would say Department of Treasury or whatever on it, and it would say like $5 or $50 million, whatever the number is, and then you would go say that you would see that it has your name on it, and then you would go check your bank account, and you could show me your bank account. It would have the money deposited in. Like, these are all things that you would have really compelling
positive evidence
that you could give me. The point is the only evidence you can give me is that your life was changed.
It's anecdotal.
Look,
I know.
I understand that your life can be changed because of beliefs. That doesn't mean the belief points to reality.
I know, but I'm saying is that, and this is how I guess they talk about like the cat distribution network. No one gets a cat. Cats are just distributed. It's kind of like that type of thing where I'm not saying that it's not true, but the belief matters more than the science in the sense of
the belief matters more than the truth is what you're saying.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that because something can be real and me not understand it, just like the Large Hadron Collider, just because I don't understand how that functions.
But it is understandable.
I walk in and I see it. Well, but no, that's not. It doesn't matter if it's understandable or not if I don't understand it. I don't know.
But no. Actually, this is a good point. Maybe it's not understandable, but you can at least go see it, and I can go see it. And if I don't believe you that you saw it, then you could just buy me a plane ticket, and I could go see it.
This is a great point you're
Okay,
making.
so where's the plane ticket so I can go see God?
Hold on. I mean, I would have to kill you, but
Oh, okay. So you're telling me that it's impossible to find the evidence for this while you're alive, which makes me seem like that's just not reasonable to believe in while you're alive.
Well, no, I know. Hold on. Hear me out. Just let me finish this analogy real quick, because you are making a great point. But my whole point is that there's certain things that you have to see to believe. Either see to believe, or you have to have experience with it to believe. Like me going to, let's say we all were broke, and I got a mystery trip to go see it. I see it, and if I come back like, "Hey guys, it's real," they're like, "No, I don't believe you." And I'm like, "Hey, I'll buy you a ticket." Most people are like, "Oh no, I'm good. I don't want to see it." But now you can't shake my belief in the Large Hadron Collider because I physically had an anecdotal experience with it. And so my whole
Look,
point
I'm
is
not telling you that you shouldn't believe if you had a very compelling experience. I'm just telling you that your experience will not mean anything to anyone else.
Well, I wouldn't say it wouldn't, because I've witnessed to a lot of people, and I have changed their minds based off my, because they
Do you think that you
personally.
actually changed their mind, or do you think that they already kind of
Yeah,
believed?
no, they became a Christian. And
Really? Like
do think,
they were like thoughtful atheists, and then they were like, you know what? This guy telling me about his story is the reason why I believe in God.
well, I wouldn't say thoughtful atheists. They're more agnostic, and it was more of a, hey, I see you change. You used to be like this. What, like this is crazy, and me sharing my testimony was something that was like, maybe there is a God. And then, over time, they started doing their research and learning, and they became a Christian. So the main thing is that in order to become a Christian, you have to want to believe. So let me ask you a quick question. If I could, get you a plane ticket and show you God and show you Jesus Christ, would you believe in God?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, there's a book that I would love for you to read, and I'm kind of getting through it now, and it's been amazing. It's called The Case for Christ.
Just to be clear, a book isn't a plane ticket to see God.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, like,
I'm familiar with the book.
Okay, yeah. If have you read it? Have you studied it? I guess.
No, I haven't. I'm familiar with the author. I'm familiar with the claims within it. I don't. I just don't find them. And to be clear, this just isn't analogous to the plane ticket to see God, right? This is like if I showed you this. Okay, so then it's just not super analogous. Look, Zion.
Well, yeah, no.
Before we get into this, you've been on for over an hour, and I should probably move on to another guest.
Yeah, no. Hey, listen, man, you've been great. My whole, I guess, can I just land this plane? Can I just
30
say,
seconds?
Okay, I appreciate it. My whole point is this: is that God is real because we exist. Therefore, we had to have been created, and we're created with intention because we can see the intelligence behind all of the design. The trees giving off oxygen, us putting out CO2, trees absorbing CO2. It's a functioning system that has intelligence, and God is wanting to have a relationship with us. And if you open up your heart and mind to Him, He will reach out to you and speak to you in a way that you can understand it. So it's all about the heart, baby. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you for being here, Zion.
All right, thank you, brother.
He was nice. He just wasn't really getting what I was trying to say, and that's fine. Like, discussions about time are tricky. All right, let us read some super chats really quick, and then we'll move on to our next guest. Virtuous Path with the $5. Thank you so much, Virtuous. The video game analogy falls apart because video games are made with the purpose of entertainment. They need to prove the universe has a purpose. Yeah, that's a good point too. They're also made by people who exist in time, right? JM, thank you for the $2. Might you find it interesting with the $5? Thank you so much. What do you think will happen first? 1, Blitz becoming a theist. 2, proving the Riemann hypothesis. Or 3, GTA 6 being released. My guess is GTA 6 being released. Devil's PD sending 10 Dr. Blitz Debunks gift memberships. You guys now have access to A, all of the emojis that we have, and B, you have access to my debate notes, which I will show you guys a quick... I will show you guys what the debate notes are. The debate notes are these. These are the debate notes. And you too can get access to them if you become a member. There's a whole bunch of arguments for the existence of God, against the or against the existence of God, for the non-existence of God. There's a whole bunch of stuff about flat Earth. You can get access to those for just like $5 a month or something like that. So consider it. Or just become a member. You can also join on Patreon. You get the same thing. Tim Davidson with the $5. If you don't understand it, you're just accepting it. And if you're accepting things, then I can easily hand you a turd and you'll accept it. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, like we shouldn't accept things we shouldn't accept things just a priori without any justification, right? Binary Ghosts. Let's get a W for Binary Ghosts for the $10. Thank you so much. What is a god anyway? To a nest of ants, you are basically a god, capable of showering them with incredible ant wealth or destroying them with ease. By lifespan, you may as well be everlasting. Well, look, so you could say that like a super powerful alien may as well be a god, but what Christians want you to believe is that there is not just like a super intelligent, super powerful alien, but that there's like an ultimate grounder of reality, which is a very different thing, right? It's a different category. Tim, thank you for the $5. To create is to make a change. To change is to go from one state to another, and therefore there is a before and after. That's time. Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Solar Lion with the $7, 7 Canuck bucks. Thank you. What's your basis for God time existing? There's no need for God to have his own time. He's eternal. It makes no difference. He created human time. Well, if he doesn't exist in time, then I just don't know how he can take actions. ATX with the $10. Great debate. Thank you. I appreciate you, ATX. And $20 from MCG. Thank you. Let's get a W for MCG in the chat as well. I think his best argument would be that God exists in God time. He created our universe and timeline in its entirety. He doesn't need to have created his own time while still creating the entirety of the space-time we're in. Yes, but then I would just contend that he didn't create the entirety of physical reality, just the entirety of our reality, or of our universe. Tim Davidson sends $2 to say TFE for God. I don't know what TFE means. The final experiment? Yeah, maybe. All right, y'all, let's move on to the next guest. We have a lot of guests queued up. Thank you guys for being so patient. Let's talk to Don't Bother Responding. Don't Bother Responding. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
I'm doing A-okay. I'm getting over a cold, so I'm feeling better. Do you believe in God there, Don't?
Yeah, but it's not like the Christian God or anything like that. But
what kind of God is it?
So, well, it's just more of a connection like that we all have together that
okay, so you don't believe that there's an entity responsible for creating or grounding our universe?
My opposition is like I think existence is the superset, the ultimate superset, right? And I think like what we call our universe, it's like a 6-dimensional object. We're, with 3-dimensional time papers.
Why do you think that there's 3-dimensional time?
Well, the papers, haven't you read about the so like it explains quantum entanglement because if you have a 3-dimensional time, then it allows multiple time coordinates for a single object.
Yeah, that's what would happen. Why do you think that exists?
Oh, well, I'm just talking about, like, I'm building up premises right now, but I would say that
what's the justification for the premise?
The geometric robustness you get from 3-dimensional time allows like tachyon explanation. It allows
so string theory is also a really robust explanation for a lot of things, but that doesn't mean string theory is true. What's the justification for believing string theory is true?
Well,
or 3-dimensional time is true.
We're kind of getting involved in explanation. I'm talking about geometric.
I just want to know what's the justification for thinking that this thing is true.
Well, it's not that that's not how we work, right? What we do is in science, as you know, is we determine whether or not something is untrue, right? So what we're doing is we're basically getting a confidence interval
provide evidence
on what the probability
that the null
evidence for hypothesis would be rejected.
We provide evidence for hypotheses, otherwise you don't accept the hypothesis.
But you have to have enough evidence to reject the null hypothesis, right? That's where p-value comes in.
So where's the evidence that we can use to reject the null hypothesis that there is not 3 time dimensions?
Well, it's explained in the paper, right? The papers that
summarize
have
it.
Come out
what's the justification?
So I did. So one of the things it explains is quantum entanglement.
Sorry,
it explains the emergence of tachyon.
Providing explanation is not a reason to reject the null, right?
Right, but it is.
That's not how we do science.
It is steps towards a model.
So if you want to provide justification to reject the null,
right?
If you want to provide a reason to reject the null, you need to provide some sort of observational experimental evidence.
Right. That's what's
the observational experimental evidence that rejects the null? They're not being 3 dimensions of time.
It's in Nature, dude. We're talking about a paper in Nature. We're not talking about like
what's the observation or experimental evidence?
So it's the theoretical model they provide, and on
so there's no observational experimental evidence?
Spatial coordinates. They do. They provide spatial coordinate predictions, and they give you the data.
Okay, so what experiments were conducted? What experiments were conducted? What observations were made?
One of them was predicting quantum entanglement. It's pretty interesting.
That's
Have
not
you
a
not read this
prediction.
paper?
Quantum entanglement has been known to exist for 100 years.
Right.
It's not a prediction.
No, you're talking about we're talking, okay, so we're having a problem here. So what I'm talking about is predicting spatially quantum entanglement events using a theoretical model.
It's not a prediction.
So,
It's been
and
known
then
to
what
exist.
happens is, okay, you're talking about the event. I'm talking about being able to know.
You're talking about providing an explanation for something. That's not a prediction.
There's a difference between seeing the sun and creating a fusion bomb, right? We know that, right?
Yes, this seems irrelevant.
Yes. No, it's not irrelevant. I'm explaining to you that when you see natural phenomena like quantum entanglement, and you can create natural phenomena like quantum entanglement, that's great. But when you can predict, that's what theories are, right? That's why we write papers. These are predictions.
We can already predict
they've
quantum
only recently
entanglement
made
with standard quantum mechanics.
And that's
like,
the point, dude. I'm talking about high level physics here. Like, just assume I'm agreeing with you, right?
Okay,
and that I understand string theory.
Just a quick question. Just a quick question.
But with three-dimensional time,
can you
what we're
define a
talking
Hilbert
about,
space?
let's just make it one-dimensional, though. It's
can you
fine.
tell me what a Hilbert space is?
To you. A what?
A Hilbert space.
Oh my God, are you going to quiz me on Hilbert space?
I just want you to tell me what a Hilbert space is.
Isn't a Hilbert space like a pocket dimension or something like that? I can't remember right now, but basically a Hilbert space would be a space between
when you're off the app A, I can see when you're off the app B, I can't hear you.
Sorry, my thumb flipped. Sorry about that. So I'm not here to talk about anything except one real thing. So if we could get to that.
Okay, so your first premise
so think of timelessness. So I was just bringing up the three-dimensional space thing just as a news commonality with you. It seems like you're thinking I'm trying to make an argument for it. Okay. But I'm more than happy to concede one-dimensional time. That's okay. I'm okay with a four-dimensional
universe. It sounded like
universe,
it was key to your argument, but if that's not the case,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was trying to make small talk, and I've realized now that was anyway. So let's just say the universe is four-dimensional. That's fine, right? We can agree on that.
Sure.
Is that okay?
We have reason to think that that's the case, at least.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, what is four dimensions? Well, we know that it's just a matrix, right? You're talking about like four spatial coordinates on four infinite planes, right? And one of those infinite planes is time, right? That's what we call it.
Sure.
But the universe could be a static four-dimensional object within a higher plane. And so,
sure,
in that case, timelessness would simply be the lack of that additional coordinate plane. You can't coordinate five-dimensional space-time on four-dimensional space-time, right? You lose information. It's one of the issues you have is...
I don't see what this has to do with the existence of a god.
I'm just saying how to explain timelessness. So
I don't have an issue understanding timelessness. It's just a universe where this manifold is described with a purely spatial metric.
Well, it's interesting because...
temporal component, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah. And it's kind of cool because then what it does is it allows people to conceptualize higher dimensions by reducing dimensions. So like you can imagine...
So to be clear, are you here to make an argument for the existence of a god?
On a three-dimensional table, right? And so like imagining anything outside that object wouldn't make any sense. You can't coordinate it.
Are you here to make an argument for the existence of a god of some kind?
Yes, I'm about to get to that.
Okay, please.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is if that's the case, then our universe is merely a part of other things, right? So like if you go down to the subatomic level, you keep going further, right? Now we're starting to believe that there might be components that make quarks, which gluons, and all that stuff, up, down, strange. We have quantum computers that are doing amazing stuff and all these things. But I think what it is at the end of the day, we're not realizing that the energy state we're in. And so we have this huge amount of energy going on, splitting into multiple fractions of universes, which I think each time any causal event occurs, that what happens is we're actually like...
So where's the god in this?
But we're almost there.
Okay, just land the plane.
There. All right, so you ready for this? 30 seconds. So as far as God goes, I don't think God is a thing. I think God is a is the experience. I think each and every one of us is here to experience what it's like to be a human being. You, Dr. Blitz.
Okay. He doesn't think God is a thing. Fine. Sean, thank you for the $5, Sean. Oh, come on, just get a little Jesus in you, Ethan. Look, we're doing our best, okay? Hudson with the $5. Fantastic debate. Would love to learn from you more. Look, I do these 5 days a week. Well, I do debates 3 days a week generally, but this week is an exception. Optimus Rhymes, thank you for the $10. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I put off getting help for years because AA made me believe in a higher power. I drank because of Christianity, so it doesn't work for everyone. 3 years sober, by the way. Yeah, so look, I just find it like if somebody is sober because they became Christian, I find it distasteful to try to convince them away from it. All right, let's talk to Captain America. All right, looks like Captain America's not connecting. All right, let's talk to Pedro. Pedro, how's it going? Pedro? 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 All right, looks like Pedro's not here. All right, let's talk to BLL. BLL, how's it going?
Good. Long time no talk.
Have we spoken
Been
before?
a couple years. Yeah. I had a Ferg TikTok that got banned by the commies. We fought about economics quite a bit a couple years ago.
Okay, well, do you believe in God?
Yes.
And which one would that be?
So, Christian God.
Okay, great.
And my
Why?
argument's going to stay in the realm of prophecy proving his existence.
Sure. Yeah, what prophecy do you think that proves his existence?
Well, all of them, and specifically all of them together. You know, he was predicted to be born in Bethlehem 700 years before. He was betrayed by exactly 30 pieces of silver that was thrown in the temple. Every detail was fulfilled in Matthew 26.
So
They
how do
predicted
we?
his hands and feet were pierced before
So just a quick question.
Before crucifixion.
How do we know that these are prophecies? Sorry, there's some background noise. Can you go to a quieter room or something?
Yep.
Oh my God.
I'm at work. Go ahead.
Yeah, so how do we know that these things, like he was actually born in Bethlehem, he was actually betrayed by 30 or betrayed for 30 pieces of silver? How do we know that these actually happened and rather weren't just post hoc additions to the story, so it seemed like he fulfilled the prophecy?
Yeah, that's a great question. You're asking basically why couldn't the authors of the New Testament just structured their writing after the Old Testament, right?
Yeah, I mean, these are people who were familiar with the stories there, right?
And the reason is because of the specifics.
I don't follow. How does the specifics make it less likely that they're structured after the stories that they were already familiar with?
Well, for instance, the crucifixion didn't even exist when Psalms was written by King David.
Yeah, and so that specific psalm, it's not clear that the words pierce anywhere in that verse, right? Like it's not clear if you look at the original Hebrew. It's just not clear that that word is present.
Oh, there's one more person we can harass, huh? Yep. Okay.
The way the prophecies are written, they couldn't possibly tell like.
I'm Carla.
There's still some serious
Hold
background
on,
noise,
I
my
need to
guy.
go to another room again.
Okay.
Anyways, if you look into the prophecy, I can't have my notes right now because that room's loud. But if you look into the prophecies, it's impossible to basically addend it.
How? Why is it impossible?
Because of how detailed the prophecies were.
If the prophecies are detailed, then it's really easy to just read the prophecies and then just add that into your own book.
We're going back. Hold on.
Dude, I can eat them.
Those are so hot, though. Well, they numb your mouth after a little bit, and then you don't notice it.
Burn off your face.
Yeah.
Talk to you later. Okay.
You're
being very patient.
I'm a pretty patient guy.
I could see that with the last conversation you had.
Well, I'm glad you think so. Yeah, maybe now's a good time for an ad or something. Buy Fairlight. No, I'm kidding.
It's a great protein.
Honestly, it's like and not an ad, by the way, but like, I don't usually like protein drinks. This one I actually like, so I have it every morning. Because otherwise it's hard to get protein in the morning because I don't want to eat eggs or anything. Not an ad, just actually like it and drink it on the regular. All right, look, maybe come back when you have your notes with you, BLL, but otherwise, like, it's just too long. We do have a super chat that we'll read in between. So Kellen Viray, okay, you got to provide a time for your guest to explain, not just interrupt, is basically said to hear. If you're convinced that something doesn't exist, then you have all the patience in the world to hear someone try to convince you. Look, I'm happy to listen to people explain. I had an hour-long conversation with Zion, but the guy that I was talking to doesn't believe that a God exists. He said that God isn't a thing. So, like, what else is there to say? All right, let's bring on the Wemo.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going all right, Wemo. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right, glad to hear it. So, Wemo, do you believe in a God?
I do.
And which one would that be?
The Christian God.
Okay.
I'm mostly deconstructed, but not quite all the way.
Yeah, sure.
And so ultimately, I would say my argument is for just some sort of intelligent designer that we would call God, but not necessarily explicitly for the Christian God.
Sure. So what's the argument that is still keeping you hooked?
Well, it's not exactly the thing that's keeping me hooked, but it's something that I used to use a lot as an apologist. I used to be very apologetic, like ministry type of guy. I'm not really that way anymore. But the idea of like cell theory, like there being an original cell or an original couple cells that is what ultimately caused, life to exist as we know it on Earth.
Sure. So like abiogenesis, that's the sticking point.
Yeah. I think that that suggests intelligent design. The first cell.
How do you figure?
The way that I've always imagined it is the very first cell would be irreducibly complex.
Why?
Because of cell theory.
So when you say cell theory, you just mean that a cell requires certain things to function?
No, like all cells that exist today came from previous cells, and so if you carry that all the way back, you would get to like an original cell,
Yeah, and so then the question is, but how does that make it irreducibly complex that the original cell couldn't have spontaneously arisen through other means?
Well, an original, I want to see if you would agree with me on this. An original cell would have to have a cell body.
It will have to have a cell membrane or a cell wall or something like that.
Yeah, and then it would have to have DNA.
Not necessarily. It could have RNA, for example.
Could have been RNA. Yeah, that's true.
Or it could have just had like, RNA is typically understood to be like a long sequence, but it could have just had some self-replicating molecule inside.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And the reason I've never been convinced by that is like in nature, the only thing like that we see that naturally sometimes occurs is like super simple like protein chains.
Sure.
And it's never anything like complicated enough for self-replication.
I think that there was even a study on, let me check something really quick. Self-replicating molecules, like an analysis of a way that this could happen naturally. Let me make sure that I can find it really quick.
By the way, I'm perfectly willing to be convinced otherwise.
So there's a paper that came out 5 years ago. It was published in the Journal of American Chemical Society. I can show it to you really quick. I don't know if you can see this. If you want to take a screenshot just so you can take a look at it at some point.
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right, let me just make it bigger so that I can make it smaller while still being readable. Okay, so this paper came out in 2020, and basically what they do in this paper is they give an account. Now this hasn't been shown in a lab, but they give an account of like a natural mechanism by which you could have self-replicating molecules form.
Okay.
And so it's at least not like impossible or like it's at least not like logically impossible. Like there are mechanisms that you can give an account for that would lead to such a thing arising. Now, the question is has this actually been observed? I don't think it's been observed, this particular process. But the point is it doesn't seem impossible.
Okay.
That's
and
fair.
We've also seen the spontaneous, like this has been seen in a lab, the spontaneous development of protocell membranes. That has been seen in a lab. And it was actually also fairly recent.
Okay.
I want to say it was last year. Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? One sec. Let me do some Googling.
Yeah, you're good.
Protocell. I think it involved silicon or maybe a sulfate. Let me see. Yeah, is it this one? I think that this is probably the right one. Yeah, okay, this was in Nature Chemistry. I should put this in my yeah, so here's another. I actually don't think this is the one I was talking about, but it's closely related. This was published last year in October. This is yeah. So let me just take a look really quick. Yeah, so this is giving another mechanism by which you can have protocells, like lipid membranes, forming spontaneously. But there was a case where it actually happened, and I could go dig for it. But the point is it's at least not out of the realm of possibility that these are things that can happen via natural causes.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I don't really have much of an opposition then, but just for my own sake, I'm curious what you think about like what do you think the first pseudo cell might have been?
I have no idea. I'm not a biologist.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I mean, I don't really have much of an opposition at this point, so I appreciate the conversation.
Well, thanks for being here, Wemo. Have a good one.
You too.
We have a few super chats, then we'll bring up the next guest. House 70, thank you for the $6.66. Hail the lawyer. Abiogenesis is just chemistry, physics, and plenty of time. If anything, the numerous dead-end paths in evolution contradict intelligent design. Arguably, yeah. But I mean, there's still science to do to actually show how it happened, right? Energetique with the $5. Genuine question. How would you respond to the statement, if God is not real, I only wasted my lifetime. If he is, you waste your eternity. Because if another God is real, like atheismo, then not only did you waste your lifetime, you're also going to suffer eternal conscious torment that's worse than any other hell. So yeah, that's Pascal's wager. Pascal's wager fails on the front that there's more than one possible God, right? Yeah, there was another paper that came out, or another story that came out, and I think it's based off a paper recently that that micrometeorites might be helping in spontaneous arrangement of protocells forming. I'll have to go fill out my abiogenesis my abiogenesis thing tab in my Young Earth Creationism debate notes. But speaking of which, these are the debate notes. You guys should consider being supporters, because then you can get access to the debate notes. And everybody knows that you want access to the debate notes, so consider it. Anyway, let's bring on our next guest. Let's bring on Mark. Also, you get access to emojis if you become a member on YouTube. Either YouTube channel, actually. Mark, how's it going? Mark?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Mark, do you believe in God?
Yes. Give me one moment to grab a seat right now. I'm walking around. But yeah, I'm Catholic, and one of the things I feel like is overlooked a lot whenever it comes to belief and reasons for it is miracles and Eucharistic miracles. I just wanted to hear like what you think about those types of occurrences.
Yeah, so generally my view is that miracles seem to be far less present in the age of smartphones than they were before everybody had cameras in their pockets. Eucharistic miracles, I haven't really seen any particularly compelling ones, where there's not like obvious conflicts of interest and stuff. So yeah, they're just not that compelling, all things considered.
What about the ones that still like stand to this day? Like I believe there's Juan Diego's Tilma. Have you heard of that?
Sorry, what's it called?
Juan Diego's Tilma. It's when Mary, the Virgin Mary, essentially came to Juan Diego
In
and gave him roses.
1531?
Yeah, but his Tilma is still present to this day, and it's
is there a
extremely.
source is there a source on this that isn't on a Catholic website that I can read about this?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken,
I mean, there's a Wikipedia
NASA.
page. I can just read it. I could read it right now, I guess, because I haven't heard of this. So the venerated image in Diego's tilma, the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe is of a life-size, dark-haired, olive-skinned. Okay, so that's the image. The tilma. I don't know. What is a tilma?
It's something that they would wear back in the day, and it's very large. And you can look up the Tilma directly, and you'll
Made
see.
of there's a large crack. Okay, so the image is so what's the claim of the miracle?
Essentially, roses were given to him, and whenever he presented the roses to the people he was trying to prove, like, hey, I was speaking to the Virgin Mary, like she came to me in a vision, and then they didn't believe him, and then she gave him roses to prove that because roses didn't grow in that region. And whenever he showed them the roses, there was a image of her that appeared.
Okay, so you're saying that like whenever roses are in the presence of the thing, roses. So I don't really understand the miracle that's like still exists today.
Well, the reason why it doesn't make sense is because roses can't just paint an image of the
Okay, so
Virgin
you're
Mary.
saying that when you put a rose near the thing, an image appears?
No, I'm saying that the Dioma, the piece of clothing that he was wearing, still exists to this day, and you can look up.
Yeah. Okay, so suppose that it still exists today. How do we know that the thing that was described, that like roses appeared, or that an image appeared spontaneously when roses were shown to it? How do we know that that actually happened?
The accounts that happened, but the main miracle is the fact that it still exists and has an extreme amount of like longevity. Like it doesn't. What doesn't make sense is the condition that it is still in to this day. Do you understand what I'm saying?
That like that the tilma still exists, that it's like still has, you can still see the paint on it?
Yeah, because it's not.
But
I remember
it's only like 500 years old. We have paintings from then. We have much older things that are still preserved.
Yes, but it's not on. Let me re-review. I can't find where it went. So yeah. So whenever they analyze it, there's no brush strokes of anything of the image that occurred. Uh, Essentially, just it it doesn't make sense. Essentially, how it ended up being on the Thielma.
So, I mean,
And
apparently in 1982, an abbot of a basilica, so this is not a non-religious person, made the claim that, he studied it, and he made the claim that the fabric was prepared with white paint before the image had been painted. He saw several different styles of tempera throughout the image. He held that the paints were made from various natural pigments, and further noted that all of these pigments were commonly available in 16th century Mexico. Like Flores Gomez, Sol Rosales saw various touch-ups and repainting throughout the image. I don't know how you would see touch-ups and repaintings if there are no brushstrokes. He also concluded that, like, this person, Guillermo, or I misread. Guillermo Schollenberg, who is the abbot, hired some artist or some professor, I guess, from the National Institute of, some national institute in Mexico to do the analysis. And then the expert concluded that the image was of human origin. So, like, it just...
What was that last part again?
Okay, so Guillermo Schollenberg was an abbot of a basilica who hired looks like a scientist or like an art expert,
Yes.
whose name was Jose Sol Rosales, to examine the thing and see, how it was made. Is it of human origin, divine origin, all these things? And the conclusion he came to was that it was of human origin.
Okay, got it. Eucharist. I see what you're talking about now. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really see that. Yeah, I do get your argument for now for Eucharist and miracles and stuff like that, because the most recent one I believe is actually in 2008 was the most recent one.
Are you talking about the one in like
In
South America
Poland?
that was then sent to the guy in New York?
No, in Poland. Week later.
Let me look it up. Does this have a... Okay. It's a diocese. Blah, 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 blah. Consecrated host fell from the hands of one of the priests as he was distributing Holy Communion. The priest picked up the host and, in accordance with liturgical norms, placed it in a container of water normally located next to the tabernacle. The host was expected to dissolve in the water over time and then later be disposed of correctly. At the end of Mass, it wasn't dissolved. I guess. I think that's roughly it. When she opened the lock safe and container, she saw a curved, bright red stain in the middle of the host. The water was perfectly clear and the stain looked like blood. She immediately informed the pastor who brought... Okay, so where is the analysis that this is a thing that actually happened? Because as it stands, it looks like this is just a thing that is reported.
At the beginning of January of 2009, in Curia Balstock, asked 2 specialists in pathological anatomy of Medical University of that region, Professor Maria. So this went into evaluation as well.
So where are the studies? Where are the results of these 2 independent studies?
I believe you could just
all right, let's
look them up.
We're gonna look them up. We're gonna look them up and we're gonna find. This is in Sokovka. Okay, it's actually harder to find than you might think. Is this it? No, this is a description of it. Okay, where is the actual study? Okay, this doesn't give me the actual study. Because this should have been groundbreaking news if this was like a real thing, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just seems like the fact that it's not easy to find these studies, like this should have been published in like, you know, Nature or in Science. This is enormous, but I can't find these studies for the life of me. Okay, so I did find, okay, I found it. I had to go to Reddit to find it, but I did find it. And apparently it's in the original Polish. It's not even, it hasn't even been translated to English. All right, let's download the full text. Was this actually published somewhere? Well, no, I imagine it wasn't published somewhere. Which makes me think it probably wasn't peer-reviewed, but we can look. Okay, so found the DOI number. Can I please read it in the original Polish? No, I'm not going to read it in the original Polish. I'm sorry. Translate. Oh, why can't I translate it? Please let me translate. Oh, it's because it's a PDF. It's really annoying. Oh, there's an abstract in English. Okay. The paper is an attempt to put the Eucharistic miracle into its proper linguistic and cultural context, which points at the Last Supper and death on Golgotha as simultaneous events. Both biblical texts and documented earliest interpretation, blah, 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 blah. The scientific expertise of the Eucharistic miracle at Sokolka reveals how the Holy Host may be simultaneously the bread and body of Christ. Additionally, the paper discusses the issue of simultaneous events from the perspective of physics. It was emphasized that there are an infinite number of reference systems in the universe. What is happening here? Hold on. This seems like it's... They don't... Okay, so this analysis doesn't seem like it's actually doing what we want, because it doesn't actually do... Like there's... I'll just show you what I'm looking at. I don't read Polish, but what I can do is I can look at a paper and I can see whether science is happening in it. So here's the paper that I was told is the original thing in Polish, and it has the right people's names on it. This Maria Elizabeta Polish name and Stanisław. It has them on it, and it talks about the Eucharistic something, and it also mentions the right place, Sokolka. However, if you scroll through this entire article, there's no pictures.
There's no
numbers. There's no tables. There's no data. There's no analysis. So, I mean, like we could translate this and look through the whole thing, but it just doesn't look like that. This is a kind of paper that actually describes the analysis to show that it was real. So I'm just a little bit skeptical of that. Now, I could keep looking.
I completely understand.
But like, this is the kind of thing that this is the kind of thing that is a little bit like it's just super sketchy, right? That like this is so hard to find.
Yeah, I mean, there's this guy. He passed away. Carlos Acutis. He has a compilation of all the Eucharistic miracles that have occurred. And they still update it past his death, I believe. And the most recent one I could find was the one in Poland.
So
I do understand that it is.
My contention is that like generally these are like, if these things were actually verified, like, you know, most scientists, especially American scientists who run like Nature, like the Nature journal, most American scientists, or at least like a large plurality of them, are religious. In fact, a lot of them are Christian. So there's no reason why they wouldn't publish this if this was scientifically sound. And so if this was actually discovered, one would expect that like this would be headline news. It would be in the New York Times. It would be published in like the most prestigious scientific journal, but it just isn't, right?
True. But a lot of those places that I'm trying to find the words, I'm sorry, that publish those things aren't primarily Catholic a lot of times, or so there could be
okay,
as well.
So do you think that somebody named Francesca Cesari is Catholic?
I wouldn't be 100% sure.
You wouldn't be 100% sure, but with a name like Francesca Cesari, like the odds are in your favor. If you said, yeah, that's possible. That's like, that'd be reasonable to assume that they at least had a Catholic upbringing. They are that person, Francesca Cesari, is the chief biological, clinical, and social sciences editor for Nature. And so like this person why would this person be unlikely to accept such a thing to be published? especially if the science is good.
Yeah. No, I completely understand. Looking at what you showed on screen of the actual article, I've looked at a lot of like meta-analysis for other stuff for the medical classes that I have to take. And yeah, I do see the fact that there's a lack of especially evidence and um, especially for like what they're trying to say in that writing because they're trying to say that oh, this is from the heart of a young male, essentially aligning very well with what Jesus would be, right?
Yeah.
I can understand that there's a lot of lack of actual showing the data, especially most likely gel electrophoresis analyses for the fact that they're going to be lining up for those for the DNA patterns.
Look, so
But
all I'm saying is that like if the claims being made were like ordinary claims, then it might just be enough to just have somebody say like, yeah, like somebody looked at it and they decided and they figured out that it was true. But if you're going to make like the most important claim in the history of humanity, right, that you have scientific evidence that a miracle occurred, then the standard of evidence is just really high, right?
yeah,
So this is all to say, like, generally speaking, I find these pretty unreliable just because, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just too skeptical for my own good, but something about it is suspect when, like, it's really hard to find these original reports and, like, they're not being broadcast all over the place. Like, it's not like Catholics are, like, a weak group. Like, I think as far as any religious group is concerned, I think Catholics are the most people in the world. So, like, you would have expected that it would be everywhere, but it's not, which, you know, just makes me a little bit sus. But Mark, anything else that you want to talk about?
no, completely understand. I just wanted to see mainly what your viewpoint was on those things
Sure.
for miracles, because a lot of people that I do speak to a lot of times don't even know those happen. And honestly, that aspect that you told me, the fact that there's not a lot of information and probably should be way more especially if those things are true. So thank you for your time, man.
Yeah, of
Have a
course.
good
Thanks
one.
for being here, Mark. Take care. All right, let's take a look at the super chats and then bring on our next guest. Optimus Rhymes, nice. Optimus Rhymes, thank you for the $5. That's fair about AA. Just hate hearing ask an alcoholic when alcoholic are like Christians. Everyone has a different story. There's more than two options. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Matthew with the $5. Wemo, I recommend the book Vital Questions by Nick Lane, a researcher in the abiogenesis field. He also has many talks on YouTube. Yeah, so look, like, I can talk about cosmology. I know quite a lot about it. I just don't know a lot about biology. That's something I need to work on. I'm going to be, the way that I will work on it is by improving my debate notes on the matter. So if you want to check out the debate notes, you guys know what to do. Become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. But I just haven't filled it out yet. So I haven't done all of the digging that I should do. Tiffany, thank you for the $5. Why is this guy so will to believe obvious BS without evidence? Like, how embarrassing to just go with trust me, bro. Look, a lot of people are brought up in these things, so I can understand why the people that they trust, the authorities that they trust, are going to be people who themselves believe these things in a perhaps non-skeptical way. So, like, I don't think that people are like, I don't think it's embarrassing. Like, this is a totally normal thing. It's just something that we should try to avoid once we're aware of it. Francis says, please bring me up, good sir. The Quran affirms science and science affirms the Quran. Please let me explain and show you the truth and the knowledge we have been mercifully given. So look, I'd love to. I'm only bringing up TikTok guests right now because I still need to fix my YouTube guest thing, which is really annoying. But if you join on TikTok, I'll bring you up. I just don't know what your name is on TikTok. And then Totodile sends $15. Thank you, Totodile. La Virgen de Guadalupe was a Catholic ploy to convert indigenous Aztec Mejira population who revered the goddess Tenochtitlan. Little to no evidence for the existence of Juan Diego. Original Guadalupe is from Spain. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's plausible. I don't know the history there. It's Jim on TikTok. I don't see Jim. Oh. Okay, no, I see him. It's not my host. Okay, I got him. We got him.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Should I call you Francis? What would you like to be called?
That's perfectly fine, and I appreciate you asking.
Great. Okay, Francis. So you say that the Quran affirms science and science affirms the Quran. Can you elaborate?
Absolutely so. Okay, so we as Muslims understand that the Quran is a representative of things that we may not understand in the time that was represented to us, but now in our day and era, we're like, whoa, that makes sense. So like if I were to go to the Quran and look at the 57th chapter, it's entitled Al-Hadid, which means the iron. Okay.
Yep.
In Arabic, you have a system called the adjab system, where each letter has a numerical value. So you don't really need numbers. You have the letters to do everything, you know? So Al-Hadid would equal the amount of 57, which is the stable atomic mass of iron. The word iron.
Iron is it's iron 56 is what you want.
Well, there's actually 4 or 5. So you can
but
go
iron 56 is the most common stable isotope of iron.
That's from the understanding of human knowledge on a basis.
Yeah,
okay?
iron 57 is
like it's like the
it
most
only makes
divine
iron 57 only makes up 2% of natural iron.
Okay.
And it's also less stable because it doesn't have a magic number of nucleons.
Okay. The word iron in Al-Hadid has a value of 26, which is the atomic number for iron.
So you're giving me some numerical coincidences. Cool. So what's the scientific evidence here?
Okay. In the verse, it specifically states, and we know that the electromagnetic sphere around the Earth, the geomagnetic sphere, is created from the iron in the center of the Earth, but it is affirmed by the verse in which it.
Which verse?
It's chapter 57, verse 25.
25.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Scrolling. Okay, so I'm looking at this. So it says, "Indeed, we sent our messengers with clear proofs, and with them we sent down scripture and balance of justice so that people may administer justice. And we sent down iron with its great might, benefits for humanity, and means for Allah to prove who is willing to stand up for him and his messengers without seeing him. Surely Allah is all-powerful, almighty." Right, okay, so what about this verse is proven by science?
Okay. We know that iron did not come from the Earth. It came from stars that have to have its breakdown, they have to have gone supernova, and they have to have had a mass or solar temperature of like 10 million degrees Celsius. Our sun, incapable of doing that. So we know that
Earth formed with the iron on it.
negative.
Or in it, really. No, that's absolutely the case.
The
Earth's iron core would have been like part of the Earth as it formed.
It has been. I mean, if you Google it, you'll see that most of the iron came to Earth outside of Earth itself. It was projected into the Earth. Okay. All right.
Okay. Can you cite your source on that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Give me 2 seconds, sir. I don't want to use Wikipedia because that's like
Wikipedia's fine.
Anyone's mom could be like.
Wikipedia is fine. It's generally pretty good as far as science is concerned.
Yeah, it's known as meteoric iron.
Meteoric iron is not all of the iron on Earth.
It amounts to about 87% of all the iron on Earth. The other 13%.
Hold on. Hold on. So where does it say the 87%?
Oh, that would be under the Wikipedia descriptor.
I'm on the Wikipedia page for meteoric iron, and the number 87 isn't anywhere on the page except in one of the references where it refers to a Psi ID number. Actually, we can just Google this. How much of Earth's iron is meteoric? Now perhaps we don't trust the AI overview, but we can skip down. So we can skip down and look for the source for this.
Yeah, like I said, I can't really go. I look at Wikipedia as this. You could be like, hey, I see this guy's view, but my view is better. Go into Wikipedia, change his view, and that's what Wikipedia says now. You know, you don't have to have like entitlement or anything.
Well, no, I mean, but so we don't have to use Wikipedia, but the point is that like it's not clear at all that the amount that iron on Earth is like most of it is meteoric. In fact, I would bet that it's like on the order of like, less than 1% of the Earth's total iron is from meteors.
Okay. Can I go into
So just to be clear, do you have a source that this is the case, or did you kind of just say that?
I was going off of the generalization from what I had read from.
So where did the 87% number come from?
The Wikipedia site.
I looked at Wikipedia. It's not on there anymore. So actually, you know what we can do? You know what we're going to do? Here's what we'll do. We're going to go look at the edited. We're going to go look at how, because it keeps track of all of the edits that were made, right? So we will go look at the view edit history. So there's not a whole lot of edits. So what we're going to do, so this is when the page was first created. Do you remember when about you saw this?
Oh, here's even more accurate. Iron. If you just go to iron in general, it says for Wikipedia, what is 90% of all metal that is iron refined today is from outside surface metals. Most of it is
90% of worldwide. So iron is the most widely used of all metals, accounting for over 90% of worldwide metal production. Okay.
Okay.
So, and then what?
Okay. 90% of all. I think I got my stuff mixed up here, so I apologize for that.
That's fine.
My next emphasis would be the form of unseen protection. What all does iron do for us? All right, we have the geomagnetic sphere. Okay.
Well, wait a minute. Just to be clear, though, so it's not the case that the iron on Earth came down from the heavens, right?
That's not true. If you look up where does iron come from on Earth, what does it say?
Well, so no, the claim is that the iron was sent down to the Earth, right? Not that the Earth formed with iron in it, and that iron came from somewhere else. Because it says we sent down iron with its great might, benefits for humanity, and means for Allah to prove who, blah, 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 blah. It's not that the Earth formed with iron. The iron was sent down. Sent down to where? Sent down to Earth.
Well, you figure in the 2 days that God was creating the Earth against the 4 that he was creating the universe, because if you actually take the age of the universe as compared to the age of the Earth, you have 13.5 billion years against
13.8.
Okay, it's a relative number. Okay, we only know a certain. Who knows more, God or us?
Well, I don't think God exists. So,
well, all right. If I'm just saying,
us.
All right, if a God in your understanding did exist, he would know all those characteristics more accurately than we would, correct?
Sure.
Because, okay, exactly, right. So you have 13.5 against 4.5, right? So that's
13.8 against 4.5.
Okay, which is a more accurate view. 2 of 6 days. That actually kind of fits what it says in the Quran, ironically.
How is it 2 of 6 days? Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because that's roughly a third.
Of like the universe was
because
4
that's roughly
days,
a third.
Yes. And then, all right, another ironic thing. Do you know?
Wait, hold on. No, I'm sorry. So we aren't done with the iron thing. So it just sounds like it's not the case that all of the iron was sent down.
Okay, you can.
Do we agree on that?
The iron in the center of the Earth, I'm saying, was formed.
That's like the vast majority of the iron on Earth is the iron.
But we're talking iron that we. Can we use the iron in the core to use to make stuff? No, we cannot. We cannot get
Okay, so do you have evidence that the iron that we mine is meteoric in general?
You can Google that.
Okay. I'm just going to Google it. How much of Earth's surface iron is meteoric? Okay, we're just going to use the AI overview because, it just makes it easier. And we can go look at the references.
I trust it.
Well, you shouldn't, but we'll just read it and then we can look at its sources. The vast majority of iron on Earth's surface is not meteoric. Most of it is native terrestrial iron that sank to the core during Earth's formation. However, the small amount of meteoric iron on the surface is the only naturally occurring native iron in metallic form, and it's primarily found in the form of iron-nickel meteorites that have landed on Earth's crust. So, right, the vast majority of iron on Earth's surface is not meteoric.
Okay. I can respect that. But it was generally, all right, but how was, all right, in your perspective, if Earth was scientifically formed, it was formed from many, many instances that happened that would cause layers upon layers to form. Then, you have whatever the big thing was that hit and then made the moon and boom, you know what I'm saying? But can you deny that the Earth has forms of protection unseen? Can you deny that? that iron is a form of balance inside of the earth, because it says this form of stability and balance. There's multiple in Arabic. One word, like the word tauba, it means to repent, but it also means to turn
Okay,
away.
where does it say stuff unseen?
That's another variation. So if you go to like I said,
We also sent iron with its mighty strength and many uses for mankind. So, like, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, there's, like I said, when you transliterate to English, there can be different things, but unseen is one of the transliterations in
In what verse?
Muslim. It's an app called Muslim Pro. So basically, I want to say that's the clear Quran, and then
So I'm looking at 3 different translations.
Yeah.
Because I always have 3 different translations up, and none of them say anything about unseen.
Well, I can take a picture.
So I see, and means for Allah to prove it. So, and we sent down iron with its great might, benefits for humanity, and means for Allah to prove who is willing to stand up for him and his messengers without seeing him. So this is without seeing Allah, not without seeing the magnetic field.
Yeah, it's not about seeing what's in the core. It's about trusting in what is available to you and understanding that it didn't come from just randomness. Like he said.
Okay, so it seems like we're doing a lot of interpretation here.
You have this, well.
So I mean, if you interpret it in light of scientific, understanding, then sure, you can make it say whatever you want it to say. But that's not like the plain language of the text. So
okay, I'll give you that. So we'll go to the next one.
All right, what's the next one?
All right, the geographic location of the Kaaba. If you look up the golden ratio on the Earth, okay, which is 1.618, we know what the golden ratio is. Every galaxy have it. Every phase.
Well, that's not true. It's just not true that the golden ratio is a thing that all galaxies and all of that, it's just not the case, right? Like if you want counterexamples, I can give you counterexamples.
If you would look to where the golden ratio is on Earth, it is actually in Mecca.
I don't know what you mean by the golden ratio is on Earth. I don't know what that means.
Just look up what is the golden ratio of Earth. The
golden ratio is a number. Golden numbers aren't of Earth. You have to tell me, what are we comparing?
If you were to take it off of the polarities of the north and south.
Polarities? Okay. Are you talking about the latitude and longitude? What are you doing? What are we talking about?
Yes, latitude and longitude.
Okay,
the dynamic time against distance.
Latitude and longitude of Mecca, or of the Kaaba, right?
It's 2125. It's easy.
Okay, so we want the. So it's 21. So the Al Kaaba is at 21.4225 north and 39.8262 east. So you want me to take the ratio of those two things or something?
Basically, if you take the ratio.
All right, let's take the ratio.
Yeah.
Sorry, 1 second. I'm opening up a calculator so I can do that. So we're going to do 39.8262 divided by 21.4225. Let's see what it says. Oh no! Oh no, it's 1.85.
That might, hold up. Let me see. 42 degrees by 29 minutes, 32 by 5. So
that's not where the Kaaba is.
Yes. The meridian of the golden ratio, which is 298.
Wait a minute, hold on. I just looked up latitude and longitude of the Kaaba, and these are the coordinates it gave me. Are those wrong?
Okay, 2142. 2125 should be. I'm confused as to.
Well, it's 20. Yeah. It's probably 21 degrees 25 minutes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, but that's the same as 21.42.
If you go to the Quran, Al-Baqarah, the second chapter of the Quran, verse 125.
But wait, the ratio's wrong. The ratio's wrong, right? So, it's not 1.68, 1.618.
I'm gonna have to show you the dynamic for it because it's there. I'm telling you, it's there, bro. I promise you. I have no means to lie or make stuff up.
No, I just don't think that you know. So so the longitude is at 39 degrees east, 39 degrees and change, right? And the latitude is 21 degrees and change. So if we just do 39 divided by 21, we should get something at least close. But 39 divided by 21 is 1.85.
All right, so 20. what did you have as your statistic for the variant for degrees on both sides? Can I see that again, please?
I'm just saying it's 39 degrees 21 degrees north, 39 degrees east. And then, 39 degrees and change east and 21 degrees and change north, right? Do we agree that those are roughly the coordinates?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay,
but
so
I don't.
If we just take the bounds of those, so there's 4 combinations. It could be 21 and 39, 22 and 39, 21 and 40, and 22 and 40. We can take all of those ratios and we can check that none of them will give us anything close to the golden ratio, which means that that whatever the exact value is, it can't fall at that level. So we'll do 39 divided by 21, that's 1.85. We can do 40 divided by 21, that's 1.9. We can do 39 divided by 22, that's 1.77. And we can do 40 divided by 22, that's 1.81. Sorry, 1.82. Which means that as long as it's between 21 and 22 degrees north and between 39 and 40 degrees east, nothing between those values will ever have a ratio that is the golden ratio.
Okay, so what about, because here it says that 21.42939.
Yeah, so I have 21.4225, but that's pretty close for the latitude. Now what about the longitude?
Okay, longitude. So can you do 21.42939? Because that's the exact.
Okay, 21.42939.
Okay, because that is the exact latitude.
Sure, and what is the longitude?
Longitude. I don't know why it wouldn't just be like right physically next to it. They're like.
Because all of the coordinates that I'm getting are like 39.8 degrees east.
31 degrees by 22 minutes.
You're getting 31 degrees east?
That's what it's reading, yeah.
Okay. I don't think that that's right. So 31 degrees in 22 minutes. So 22 divided by 60 is sorry, I can't copy. So we need to convert minutes to degrees. So 22 minutes, you said? So it's 31.367. So we want 31.367. Don't worry, y'all, we'll get there. 31.367 divided by 21.429. That's 1.46.
Yeah, but I'm failing right now as in my representing this because I swear I had to.
I mean, like, look, the latitude and longitude of the Kaaba are 21-ish degrees north and 39 degrees-ish east. We can just go to Google Earth and we can plug it in and we'll find it at those coordinates. And those coordinates, the ratio is not the golden ratio.
Maybe that was my own internal error then, because I definitely was processing that one myself. I was like, wait, that's kind of like in that general
wrong.
I'm gonna say I failed in that aspect. But as you can see, it is 21 by 25. It's in the Quran as that.
Wait, but it's not at 21 degrees north, 25 degrees east.
25 minutes. 21 by 25 minutes. I mean,
I don't think that that's true either. Sorry, 0.4225 times 60 is 25. Okay, so it's 21 degrees, 25 minutes, and then some change. Sure, what does that have? So 21.25, okay. Is that a particularly important verse?
The maritime standard for latitude and longitude wasn't finalized until the 1800s when the Earth was actually.
But what's important about 21.25?
It's actually, that's the very first verse in the Quran that represents the Kaaba. So it's actually.
How is it representing the Kaaba?
Because it talks about the Kaaba in that verse.
I'm looking at the verse right now.
Chapter 2, verse 125.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why aren't we going to chapter 21, verse 25?
No, it's
because 21 degrees, 25 minutes is not 2 degrees, 125 minutes. Those are not the same thing.
patterns are different in ways that we see them.
So you're just allowed to move decimal places however you want in order to make things work out?
God can do whatever he wants to do.
It sounds like you're finding patterns where there aren't any.
Okay. So
it would be really cool if verse 21, if book 20, I guess it's a chapter, if chapter 21, verse 25 said something about the Kaaba. That would be kind of surprising, actually, but it doesn't.
Okay. But chapter 2, verse 125 does.
Okay, but 2.125 or 2 degrees 125 minutes is not 21 degrees 100 or 25 minutes, right? These are just not the same thing.
But we're also talking about something that wouldn't have been a pattern in a time that the pattern wouldn't have existed.
Right, because the pattern, you're making the pattern, right? You are looking for any arrangement of 2125 that you can find.
So if God makes a code for you to figure out, it's supposed to just be like instantaneously noticeable?
This sounds like people making a code.
Well, how could they make a code when the code wouldn't have existed?
The people who found this found something that wasn't put there intentionally.
It's like, or like if you put, say the word land is in the Quran a specific amount of times as to the word sea, and if you take them as an equation, it actually equates to the amount of land and sea on earth. Like
that is I don't believe that. B, I don't care. Like that like you could find these kinds of coincidences in literally any book.
Okay, so the God saying that the sun swims in its orbit, that's wrong?
Yeah, it doesn't swim. There's no medium in space. No.
I want you how does gravity occupy a body?
I don't know what that question means.
Okay. So if I'm going to touch the wall, right? If I go to touch the wall in my infinite space of my finger in which I could touch, even though I'm touching the wall, I'm never physically touching the wall because of apparent gravity. That is scientific.
That has nothing to do with gravity, by the way.
It absolutely does, because the sun is in an occupied space.
Wait a minute, hold on. To be
clear,
you think that when you're touching a wall, you're not touching it because of gravity?
You're not, because of gravity.
It has nothing to do with gravity. How do you think gravity is related there?
Because there's like a certain pull against an object inside of its space that is a constant. So if that object constantly has the same surface tension against my surface tension on my object, there is going to be a space of gravity in between those two.
What does that have to do with gravity? What does surface tension have to do with gravity?
Like, you don't think certain surface tension has... So let's look at water as an example. If surface tension and gravity didn't have any, apparent hold on each other, we would be like having globules of water float around all the time, as if we were in space.
What? No, I don't see how that follows. Look, you said that somehow it's gravity that prevents you from touching things. I asked how, and then you brought up surface tension, and those are not the same thing.
I'm saying that there's always gravity in between. There's space in between.
What does it mean that there's gravity between two things?
Because you're exerting force.
Gravity isn't the only kind of force that's present. It's not the only kind of force that exists.
You have kinetic force. You have...
No, there's electromagnetic force. That's the thing that stops you from touching something, even though, you're touching something in as much as you're touching anything, right? But...
Okay. All right. So...
Mark, question. Sorry, your name's not Mark. The previous guy's name was Mark. Francis, how did you get introduced to Islam?
Reading, studying, listening to a lot of lecture, reading the Quran, kind of getting an understanding of as a comparison to okay, Jesus this, but Jesus never says he's God, but he also says, I want you to pray like this with me, not for me, but with me. He verifies hey.
But what does that have to do with convincing you that Islam is true? It could just be that Christianity is false and Islam is false.
Well, a lot of the scientific presence, if you were to take the prefrontal lobe. Okay, in the Quran it says when we grab the liars and the sinners, we'll take them by their lying sinful forelock. Okay, the prefrontal lobe is where lies are processed. Okay, so to say like the lying sinful forelock would be a jump unless you knew.
Do you know where forelocks are?
It's the front of your head.
No,
right.
Forelocks are like these, right?
Forelock.
Oh, I guess forelocks are actually a part of a horse's mane. It's not actually a thing that. Do we even talk about it on people? I don't even know if it's a thing that's talked about on people. A forelock is a piece of, okay, so according to, we can just go look at vocabulary.com. Or let's go to Cambridge Dictionary, actually. Okay. We'll look at this. Forelock. A piece of hair that grows or falls over the forehead. Part of the face above the eyes, or part of a horse's mane that falls forward between its or part of a horse's mane that falls forward between its ears. So you're just talking about bangs.
In essence, yes.
Okay, so the prefrontal cortex is like the entire part. It's not just the front bit, right?
But the prefrontal lobe is very much the dead center of your forehead. So if I grab you by like the very front of your head, let's say we're talking about a teacher who's mad in class and she sees that little piece of hair in the front of your head and she drags you by it. That's what.
So I don't understand why you would grab someone by their hair. Why that would have anything to do with.
It's the analogy
of
being.
So it's an analogy. There's a lot of interpretation happening here.
No, it's science, bro.
There's no science. Your hair isn't the part that does the lying.
No, the prefrontal lobe is.
Right, okay? And that's not your forelocks.
It's right behind where it's at. It's a reference to it. All right, so
okay, so you're doing interpretation again.
Skins, right, when it talks about burning people in hell, okay, we're gonna take their skins. Once they're burnt fully, we'll replace them with new skins. Why would God replace burnt skins with new skins? Why?
You tell me.
Because there's no nerve receptors in a burnt flesh. You can only burn your skin so much before you can feel pain. And then you can't feel pain anymore on your skin. So if you replace the skin with
to be clear, there are nerve clusters all over the body, not just in skin.
But if you are burnt to a certain extent, you no longer would feel that pain. Am I wrong?
Okay, can you cite your source here?
Any scientific source, bro. You can't tell me that you don't know.
So are you telling me no, you can't cite your source?
Well, I could look up any source about that.
Okay. Can you feel pain in parts of your body that aren't skin? Yes. You can feel pain in parts of your body that aren't skin, such as muscles, bones, joints, and internal organs, because all have pain-sensing nerve endings.
But
I mean, that's the AI overview, so who knows if it's believable.
But
we can just
your flesh feel the pain anymore?
Well, yeah, the rest of you can.
All right, but here he says, a 4th degree burn or type of this type makes your skin turn red blotchy. You may have dryness or moist.
Actually, you know what? Here you go. Here's a great example. Francis, so have you ever had appendicitis?
Thankfully, no.
Okay, so appendicitis is like horribly painful. Like it's just like awful, right? It has nothing to do with your skin, right?
No.
Then how can you feel the pain if the only way to sense pain is through your skin?
I'm not saying that is the only way to feel pain. I'm saying that if the skin was burnt completely off, the skin would no longer feel the pain of the fire burning it.
Obviously.
Yes.
Okay, that doesn't take a miracle to know. If the skin doesn't exist, the skin can't feel pain because it doesn't exist anymore.
But the neuroscience wasn't there when it was represented back then.
You don't need neuroscience to understand that. If the skin is no longer there, of course the skin's not going to feel pain. Okay. Something else might, but the skin won't. The skin doesn't exist.
So in hell, it says that they will drink a boiling liquid and it will burn their bowels. Okay, yeah. The bowels, you don't feel pain in your intestines if you drink something hot.
Well, I actually don't know if that's true. I imagine that you probably would feel that, actually.
There's no nerve receptors in your intestines.
My brother would beg to differ, by the way.
go ahead.
It's called visceral pain. It's a real thing. Like, you absolutely can feel. Actually, here's a good example. Have you ever been constipated?
Of course.
It hurts, right? Especially if it's really bad.
Yes.
Yeah, how are you feeling that?
That's gas inside your bowels.
Yeah, why does it hurt if there's no pain receptors there?
It's your bowels. Your bowels have pain receptors. Your
Yeah, so you could feel burning liquid, plausibly.
in your bowels, yes,
Yeah.
in your bowels, but not in your intestines. It's specifically
That's what your bowels are.
But it labels the bowels as they have pain receptors.
Wait, what do you think bowels are?
It didn't say the intestines. It didn't say it would burn their
You know that
throat.
your bowels is just a colloquial language for intestines, right?
We're talking like your gut. Your
That's what your bowels are, your intestines. And then sometimes your stomach is included as well.
What? Am I at a loss here? Oh my goodness.
Just look up what bowels are.
Will do. I'll feel.
I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you. Here you go. We'll use the AI overview again, because this is common knowledge. Bowels are a part of the digestive tract comprising the small intestine and large intestine, rectum and anus. So you're right. I left out a part. Your bowels also include your butthole.
Oh, the sphincter. Okay. Well, I'm ignorant. I guess I'm just ignorant, bro. I guess I'm just ignorant.
I don't know how you came to believe this and why you believe that these are good arguments if you haven't looked into them yourself.
Well, I have looked into them.
Apparently not.
My plate has been very full lately, so
look. You don't have to have looked into them, but you shouldn't treat them as if they're convincing arguments for something if you haven't.
Okay, so if I were to talk about the ocean, all right, and God.
I take it we're going to do this again, aren't we?
We are.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll give you one more.
All right. And in the ocean, we know that there are waves that overlap other waves. Like there's levels of waves. There's like this level of wave is a surface tension, and then it forms like a different mass of water. And then
okay, what's the verse and what's the apologetic that you want to present rather than, and then we can talk about it, okay?
Okay, absolutely. I just have to look at my thing real quick. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Surah An-Nur.
What's the number?
24.
24. Okay.
Verse 40.
Verse 40. Okay. Or their deeds are like the darkness in a deep sea covered by waves upon waves, topped by dark clouds. Darkness upon darkness. If one stretches out their hand, they can hardly see it. And whoever Allah does not bless with light will have no light. So are you saying the phrase waves upon waves implies some knowledge about waves that they didn't know back then?
That there is like densities to the water in the ocean. And the clouds at the top would be like the waves crashing. Because if you're looking under the first level of water, if you see the waves crashing, it often looks like it's a cloud forming. Am I wrong?
So do you think that they had never seen waves?
Well, not under like 10,000 feet of pressure.
I don't think that, so 10,000 feet isn't an amount of pressure. But waves don't go that deep.
Look at the different densities in the ocean. How at what depth the water density changes.
So the density of water is basically unchanging.
There are waves. What is the north?
There are currents. Is that what you mean?
In an aspect, a current could be an example, but the wave.
No, a current isn't a wave, though.
Water has different levels of density, brother.
No, it doesn't. That's like one of the important features of water is that it's like basically incompressible.
Just please look at what I'm like. There. It's.
Yeah. So you want me to look up the density of water of at I don't know 1,000 feet.
Say
under the ocean.
How many different levels or layers of water are there in the ocean?
So are you talking about you're talking about oceanic layers? Yeah, so oceanic layers are a thing, but those are different waves, right? So the layers of the ocean are kind of like, these are kind of like arbitrary things that we made up.
So what would you call it back in the day? What would you call another level of pressure of water?
It's not a difference in pressure or anything like that. It's not a difference in like waves or whatever. It's just like a demarcation that we use because there are different like features and different kinds. Like, for example, there are certain kinds of organisms that only go so deep because, you know, the light only gets so deep. And so like if you are an organism that needs to photosynthesize, then you can't live like 10,000 feet below the ocean or below the ocean surface because you won't get any light there.
But you wouldn't have known these facts about
what fact am I missing? Or what fact is he missing?
The ability to see at such a depth. Like, say if I'm 10,000 feet down.
So in the Quran it says waves upon waves. What does that have to do with there being different layers of the ocean that are demarcated by like the organisms that live there and the amount of light that penetrates and things like that?
God speaks in metaphors, man.
Okay, so it requires interpretation. So again, you're just reading the science into the book rather than reading the science out of the book.
Here's the thing: if you just allow every single buddy to just get something, that means the people that are absolutely toxic and trash, they're going to be like all about it too, because then they can just do whatever, you know.
So are you telling me that Allah doesn't want everybody to believe in Him?
Not everyone is going to. He allows who He wills to understand the truth for what it is.
I thought that under Islam the goal was to get everybody to believe.
Your job as a Muslim is to, yes, dawah is very important. Being like, hey, you know.
So then why did He make it so hard for you guys? Why did He make all the arguments so bad?
My way of presenting them was probably not the best. I haven't slept but 2 hours today. I saw you on, and I was like, this guy speaks really good. He's got a lot of etiquette. He's very communicable. I appreciate that. I've yet to find someone who's like as chill as you are, because everyone else would have been like, you're effing this and effing that, and I'm like, bro, like, what are
my mama taught me good.
Yeah, I can tell, bro. You've got great etiquette, and I respect that. And I was in the military at one point in time, so I did 7 years, and you know.
Hey, well, thanks for your service, man. As long as you were serving the right guy, the good guys, you know. Look, so Francis, I'm gonna let you go because I want to bring on another guest before I end the live.
For sure.
But thank you so much for being here, and I do appreciate it. One final thing, like, you don't need to be able to explain all of these things, but just as like a word of advice, until you can explain it to yourself, until you've looked into it and seen like why these are good arguments, I wouldn't recommend presenting them to other people, right? Because otherwise this will happen again. And you don't want that.
I think what I did is I failed to use my tablet as my device, and I used my phone because all my stuff is on my tablet. I could have just been like beep, bop, boop. But my phone was pretty much dead, so I didn't want to like risk it dying while it's charging. You know what I'm saying?
Understandable. Well, look, Francis, thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate you. Have a good one. Okay.
Thank you. God bless you, man. You know, and you know, either way, you have.
Oh, he paused and I clicked, and then he kept talking. That's my bad. But thank you so much for being here, Francis. Let's read some super chats, and then we'll move on to our next guest. Mr. Pancake with the $5. Are you familiar with Clint's Reptiles? Just wondering. I have no idea what that is. Morrowind with the $20. W. Morrowind. Let's read what he has to say. Hey, Mr. Blitz. Dr. Blitz. I heard you say you don't think God exists. I agree that you can't prove whether he does or doesn't, but it's interesting that you don't believe in his existence at all. Could you explain your reasoning? Stick around and watch. I mean, essentially, my reasoning is that there are not really compelling arguments for it, and there are a lot of compelling arguments against it. By the way, somebody in the comments is saying I'm just wrong about the layers of ocean. He doesn't know what he's talking about, and he needs to shut the fuck up about things that are outside of his field. I mean, like, I took like basic geoscience. Like, there are layers of the ocean. These are like demarcated by like humans, right? Like, the density of water is basically unchanged. Like, there are very slight changes, but like otherwise it's just like water is incompressible. I don't know what I'm missing here, but you seem very upset about my description of oceanography. Anyway, Ben Jones with the $5. We just found tryptophan on a meteorite. We have 15 of the 20 amino acids now. How significant is this finding? Is this defining how life began? I don't know. Again, not a biologist, but it just seems to be more and more plausible that like these molecules that make up life are just not that rare. At Devil sends $2. Thank you. In fairness, this guy has bowels for brains. Hey, let's not do that. He was polite. Make with the 5 CHF, which are Swiss francs. You're not the goat you think you are. Your cheap mental gymnastics can't grasp the difference between faith and sciences. Young Hoom Kim is Christian, by the way. Well, I appreciate the hate donation. That's awesome. I never claimed to be the goat. Einstein was the goat. But Young Hoom Kim, I don't care if he's a Christian. He fabricated his IQ test. So I'm not too worried. Flint and Steel with the 5 Canuck bucks. Stomach aches, abdominal cramps, headaches, heartburn, acid reflux, pulled muscles, pinched nerves. That's all internal pain. Yeah, right? I love hate donos, though, to be honest. Lou, thank you for the 5 Australian dollars. Hope you're feeling better. I am. At least mostly. I'm still recovering a bit. Bacon and Bush with the $10. I guess I'm just ignorant, but I've been so busy. So to continue my argument, there's an exceptional self-awareness shown that is at the same time missing entirely. It's curious, very curious. Yeah, look, I can see what you mean. A lot of people hear things. So look, here's the real scoop. You will watch debaters, right? And this is probably going to apply to almost literally everybody watching, with very few exceptions. You will watch debaters like myself, like Ian, like Justin, like Matt Dillahunty, like, any of these people who does these kinds of debates. You will watch these. The arguments that people on your side present sound good. They sound reasonable. And you're like, I could do that. So then you go and try to do it without any practice. And then what happens is what just happened with Francis. Now, this is not to say it's not a learnable skill. I don't think that I'm particularly gifted at debate or anything like that, right? Like, it's just something that I've been doing for a while. But it's very easy to hear an argument and think I could do that, without actually practicing and putting in the time to work on it, because it is a skill. So this is all to say, a good place to start is practice in Discord servers. There's no stakes there, right? That's where most, me and Ian both practiced in Discord servers before we did anything online. And you can get a hang for that. Also, it's really, really helpful to start debating on things that you are an expert in. That's how I started. I started debating on the physics of flat Earth because, I have a degree in physics or 3 degrees in physics. So it was really easy. I could fall back on expertise when I didn't have the rhetoric, when I didn't have the debate knowledge and things like this. So that's just advice. It's not as easy as people make it seem like it is, right? So, and that's how you end up with awkward conversations. Anyway, let's bring up Pern. Pern, how's it going?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Pern, do you believe in God?
I do.
Okay, and which one would that be?
Christianity.
Okay, great. So you believe in Christianity. I don't. What would be the most compelling argument you could offer me that would, make me more likely to believe in Christianity?
So what do you think about NDEs?
I haven't really seen particularly compelling evidence for them. I know that there are a lot of stories about them. But I've heard, and look, I just haven't looked too deeply into them myself. I've heard conflicting things. On the one hand, I've heard people who are pro NDE saying things like, yeah, so there was a study where, they put something on the ceiling to see if the NDE person could see it. NDEs, by the way, for chat, it's a near-death experience. Somebody has a heart attack, they're dead, and then they're out of their body, they experience being out of their body, and then they're resuscitated or whatever. And then people are able to see things that they shouldn't have been able to see. And then I've heard other people say literally the exact opposite, that experiments have been conducted where they weren't able to see the things that they left behind for NDEs. So it's just not clear to me that this is settled science that NDEs are definitely true. And even if NDEs were true, that seems to say nothing about God existing.
I understand what you're saying, but even if it's just one compelling case, like the Pam Reynolds case, have you heard of the Pam Reynolds case?
No. But to be clear, even if I accept NDEs, that doesn't seem like it has anything to do with God existing or with Christianity being true.
Yes, I understand that, but most of the NDEs report seeing some type of God thing.
Yeah.
They either report Jesus or they report seeing, at the very least, some realm that's beyond this existence. They report going to somewhere. So
right. But I've read NDEs of people who claim to have seen Vishnu sitting on a throne. So that was if we believe NDEs, then that means that Vishnu is real?
I don't know. I haven't heard that. The only thing that I've heard is from the NDE Wikipedia and then from the National Library of Medicine, where they've studied like thousands of NDEs. And, maybe as stupid as it sounds, I've even asked ChatGPT. I don't know if that's like a stupid thing to say on TikTok, but even AI, when it took all the information from the NDEs and put it together, it said that it's pretty clear that something happens to people spiritually. Something happens to their soul.
Look, I don't think that souls exist. I'm happy to say that, like, in the moments of brain death, something happens. The question is, do we believe that those things that people experience correspond to something that exists in reality?
Well, they have been clinically dead.
To be clear, clinically dead often means that their heart stopped. It doesn't mean that they're brain dead, right?
Okay. I can't. I wouldn't know. I can't speak on that. I don't want to say anything that I don't know. But I do know that some people have been clinically, whatever that means, clinically dead for a half hour, for a crazy amount of time.
So again, clinically dead means your heart has stopped beating. If your brain was deprived of oxygen for a half hour, you would never be able to talk again. You'd probably never be able to function again because, brain death occurs within like 5 minutes of not having oxygen.
Yeah, that's one of the things that makes it a miracle too. But
the thing is this never happens. You've never when they say they're clinically dead, that just means that they were doing like chest compressions for like half an hour, manually pumping the blood so it gets to their brain.
I think there are cases where people have actually been like brain dead as well for like an extreme amount of time, where there's cases where the surgeons and the doctors at the hospital literally were so blown away that they would go to the patients like to their homes and stuff and like speak with them, and they were atheists and their whole life changed after experiencing things like that, because they were like, I've never seen anything like this.
I can absolutely understand that people have experiences when their brain is when their brain is in the process of shutting down, when their brain is deprived of oxygen. I can understand that people have certain experiences. I'm just wondering, why does that mean that God is real?
Well, okay, so in first, I just want to say that the NDE, that the thing that interests me the most about the NDE is that they're able to see things that the doctors are saying that are happening to their body. They're able to kind of exit their body, which that tells me that there is a soul, something that leaves your body, because they're not just having these like hallucinogenic type of experiences. They're seeing the doctor like use tools and then coming back and saying, oh, I saw you use that saw on my body. And the doctor's like, there's no way that you could have known that I was using a saw. So that tells me that there is like we do leave our body somehow.
Are there examples that that you could point to me specifically that have been examined? Like, in a critical way?
That's why I brought up the Pam Reynolds case.
Okay, let me pull up the Pam Reynolds case and I'll just take a look really quick.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to pull it up on Wikipedia. I'm sure that this is fine. You can just read it. Read it quickly. Sorry, let me make it a little bit. Okay, there we go. Reynolds reported that during an operation, she heard a sound like a D natural that seemed to pull her out of her body and allowed her to float above the operating room and watch the doctors perform the operation. Reynolds claimed that during this time, she felt more aware than normal and her vision was more focused and clearer than normal vision. She reported seeing the surgical saw, but said it looked like an electric toothbrush, and this is in fact true. She said that she could hear conversations between operating room, and even though she had earphones in her ears, which were making a loud clicking noise many times per second in order to monitor her brain function. At some point during the operation, she says she noticed a presence and was pulled towards a light, so she began to discern figures in the light, including her grandmother and uncle, other deceased relatives, and people unknown to her. According to Reynolds, the longer she was there, the more she enjoyed it, but at some point she was reminded she had to go back. She says her uncle brought her back to her body, but she did not want to go, so she pushed her in, and the sensation was like that of jumping into water. So, okay. That's a cool set of claims. Let's look at what the reception is. So Reynolds' NDE has been put forward as evidence supporting an afterlife by proponents such as cardiologists. This person, according to this person, Reynolds' experience occurred during a period in which her brain had completely ceased to function. Critics say that the amount of time during which Reynolds was flatlined is generally misrepresented and suggest that her NDE occurred under general anesthesia when the brain was still active, hours before Reynolds underwent hyperthermic cardiac arrest. Anesthesiologist Gerald Worley analyzed the case and concluded that Reynolds' ability to perceive events during her surgery was a result of anesthesia awareness. According to psychologist Chris French, who served as an editor-in-chief of The Skeptic magazine, so, there's bias there, Worley, an anesthesiologist with many years of clinical experience, has considered this case in detail and remains unconvinced of the need for a paranormal explanation. He draws attention to the fact that Reynolds can only give a report of her experience sometime after she recovered from the anesthetic, as she was still intubated when she regained consciousness. This would provide some opportunity for her to associate and elaborate upon the sensations she had experienced during the operation with her existing knowledge and expectations. The fact that she described a small pneumatic saw used during the operation also does not impress Worley. As he points out, the saw sounds like and to some extent looks like the pneumatic drills used by dentists. In his large study on near-death experiences, Professor Sam Parnia's group, the Human Consciousness Project, in their AWARE study, identified one subject out of 101 cardiac arrest survivors who described details related to technical resuscitation equipment. None of the patients reported seeing the test design with upward-facing images. So it looks like it's at least contentious that this requires a supernatural explanation, right?
Right.
So, one case of something that is at least contentious just doesn't seem like it's enough to convince me that there's a soul.
Yeah, I totally understand that. But this is so after reading things like this, I got into reading so much more about it. There's like you could read hundreds of these. And obviously, I can't spend hours showing you every single one that I've listened to or read or saw in interviews and stuff like that. But there's so many more that are just like this. So this is the biggest reason that I actually believe that there's something, just because these people are having these experiences so profound that the government studied them, doctors have been studying them. There's the government website by the National Library of Medicine has thousands of explanations of near-death experiences, a systematic analysis of case reports, and qualitative research. To me, things like this states that there has to at least be something, right? Or
I don't know if that's the case. Like, look, maybe it means that there's something that people experience when their brain is shutting down, but that doesn't mean that there's anything like in reality that those things are corresponding to.
I don't know. I think for me, the fact that they're even able to like identify what doctors were saying and what instruments doctors were using.
So to be clear, I don't think that's what did Reynolds claim that she heard what the doctors were saying, because it didn't say that on the Wikipedia page.
During part of her operation, no brainwave activity, no blood was flowing to her brain, which rendered her clinically dead. She claims to have made several observations during the procedure, which medical personnel report to be accurate with the field. So I guess it doesn't say exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's referring to the surgical saw, but that looked like an electric toothbrush.
Yeah, and I think she also saw like a doctor in the corner that was doing something that we just read it,
but so it's just not super clear to me that, like, okay, so how can we distinguish between her being able to hear something while she was under anesthesia and her genuinely leaving her body while she was during a heart attack? How do we distinguish between those two?
Well, she was able to see the saw that they used. I mean, at the very least, we know that, right?
Well, not necessarily. At least according to Chris French, his claim was that she was only able to give a report of her experience sometime after she gained conscious experience, at which point she would have looked around the room and perhaps been able to associate her experiences with things that she saw in the room.
I guess, but I think that's kind of a stretch. That kind of seems like
it's a stretch that somebody had like a crazy experience and then they look around for something to ground it in, and then they see something that like mildly resembles some crazy experience that they had, and they make that association.
Well,
that seems pretty
sure that
expected, actually.
But we'd also be assuming that the saw was even in the room at the time when she woke up. I mean, maybe they took it away.
I mean, maybe.
Right. So if you're going off,
there seems like an awful lot of maybes here.
if you're going off of what actually happened, she left her body. She saw devices that were being operated on her. She had some type of consciousness experience where she saw some type of world or entity outside of her, and then she came back, and then she let the doctors know what she saw, and it fascinated the doctors. I mean, that's going off of this, right?
Yeah. So that's the experience that she has. The question is what's the origin of that experience? And it's like, this is, look, for the size of the claim that's being made, it seems like we would need a lot more compelling evidence than this. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think that, and I could pull this up. I think that there was a study where someone did, I don't remember where it is, and I'd have to find it, so I'm not going to waste your time doing that. But I think that there was a study where they basically like hid words in like a way that is like, that would be visible if you were floating above your body, but wouldn't be visible from the operating table or whatever, or from like, the hospital bed. And then like nobody was able to figure out what those words that were hidden were. But I could go find it. Do you are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
I'm not, but
okay.
This is honestly the biggest evidence that I have.
Okay, but actually, suppose that all of this is true. Suppose that near-death experiences are real. Suppose that souls actually exist. How does that mean Christianity is true?
Okay, so that's definitely a good question, and I don't necessarily would say that Christianity is 100% true based off of this. But I didn't want to say that in the beginning because then I was afraid that you would just be like, I don't want to speak to you. You're not the type of guest that I want to speak to. But I do believe that this makes me believe that there is something, And I know that this is just me saying words and whatnot, but if you really do look into things like if you just keep looking deeper and deeper into NDEs, you'll find so many experiences of so many different people who have had insane experiences that just can't be I don't know, it just can't be a coincidence, or it can't just be a bunch of hallucinations. Like you could go into hours and hours of interviews of people who have had NDEs experiences all across the world, and a lot of them do point to seeing Jesus. Some point to seeing Buddha, some point to seeing whatever, but they do point to seeing something,
Right, but so if we can confirm, if the things that they're seeing are supposed to be true things, like real things that actually exist in reality, then either, well, I mean, if that's the case, then it just follows that Christianity is false, right?
I don't know. Could you explain more?
I mean, like, look. If we believe what people saw actually exists when they see that, if they see something in an NDE, then when an Indian woman sees Krishna sitting on a throne, surrounded by lotus petals during her NDE, that means that Krishna is a god, and that means Christianity is false, right? So, like you can't really have it both ways.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I agree with you, but I just think that this points to that there's something that there's some type of soul that something happens after this,
Right, and that's consistent with atheism, by the way. You can be an atheist and still believe that that's true.
Oh, so then yeah, that's perfect then. I thought atheists just believe that it's you die and it's nothing.
Some atheists do. In fact, maybe many atheists do, but atheism is a statement about the existence of a god, right? It doesn't have anything to do with souls.
Okay, good. I mean, that's everything. That's all I have. I just wanted to see what your thought was on the NDAs.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here, Pern.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, let's bring up one more guest. I feel like I've spoken with Theosophical Wanderings before. Or maybe I haven't, I don't know.
Hey.
Johnny, how's it going?
Very good. First of all, I'm...
Sorry?
Sorry. You go first.
What did you say?
First of all, I'm German. I'm very young, so please excuse
How old are you?
if English is not that good. I'm 24.
Okay, so you're not too young. Okay, so do you believe in God, Yanni?
I believe in a creator, like a creator of the universe, if you can say that.
Yeah, okay. And so what would be the most compelling argument you could offer me that would make me convinced that that's the case?
Okay, I just think, what's the downside to believing in something?
Well,
We all have to believe.
I like to believe in true things.
Okay, so you say true things, but what do you mean by true things?
Well,
true
if I'm
things
going to
and false
believe,
things.
if I'm going to believe that things exist, then I want those things to be. I want those things that I believe that they exist. I want them to actually be in reality, like be a part of reality. For example, I don't believe in unicorns living on Earth because
that's very unlikely.
Aren't actually in reality.
It's just, I would say things are not true or false or right or wrong or evil or good. I would say they're very possible or not that possible.
Well, yeah, okay. So what is the reason for why I should believe that a God exists, or that a creator exists, rather?
Because I see there's no downside in believing in something that created the Earth.
I mean,
in the
to be
best
clear,
case,
there is a downside. You're believing something false, or you could be believing something false, and I generally consider that to be a downside.
I could be believing something false.
And I generally consider that to be a downside.
We all could be believing something false.
And I consider that to be a downside when that's the case.
So you say believing in something that's not very likely is a kind of wrong. So it has to be.
I don't think it's morally wrong. I think that it's something I don't want to do.
Oh, I see. So you want to go with the thing that's most likely. And I completely understand that. That's fine for me. But the most likely thing is defined by what you deem as most likely, or what other people deem as most likely.
I mean, I don't know how you figure that. Like, you can present arguments and that will either increase or decrease your credence in a particular claim.
Your credence? I don't recognize that word.
Credence is like how convinced you are that something is true.
I would argue that you are convinced by the things you learn, like, or you the things you are coming into contact with. Like, there's a filter. You don't know everything. You just know the things you know, and guess of the things you know, you make a possible guess what is most likely to be true or not.
Right, and then we learn more things, and then we reevaluate that likelihood, right?
Right.
And so my point is that as you learn more and more, you can come to better and better conclusions about the likelihood of something being true. And so in my view, I think that we should not believe things that aren't likely to be true. And we should believe things that are likely to be true.
I don't see the downside.
Because I think that believing in truth is valuable. Or believing in true things and not believing in false things is valuable.
Possibility is also valuable, but it doesn't mean that you can't believe in things that are not very likely to happen. For example, if you
I don't know what you're.
Look, for example, I would like an example.
Actually, let's just back up for a minute. Maybe just believing, just because there's no downside for you, is fine for you, but that's not convincing to me at all.
I mean, belief has to mean that something is right or wrong or true or false.
If you believe something, that means that you have an attitude. If you believe something, that means you have an attitude about whether a claim is true or false.
No. Let me
That's what a belief is.
Let me make an example. For example, I'm German, so I make the example with a soccer club or football club. I don't know what you say.
That's fine.
If you believe in a thing like a club that's not very likely to win, to keep succeeding, like in the finals or something, is that a wrong belief?
If the claim is, do you believe that they will win? Then yeah, that is. I mean, you're likely to be wrong.
That's right. You're likely to be wrong, but it's not a wrong belief.
And so you shouldn't believe that.
Thinking something you believe in.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to believe that if I was likely to be wrong.
So you wouldn't want to believe that the team you're rooting for is winning in the finals.
I wouldn't be rooting for them. Well, okay, it depends on what you mean by rooting. Like, if I like the team for separate reasons, then I might hope that they win, but that doesn't mean that I believe that they will win.
I see what you're saying. There's a difference between hope and belief.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you can say I don't believe in God. I hope for a God.
Okay.
But
then how is that supposed to convince me to believe in a God?
Yeah, it was my fault in the definition. I didn't know that.
You're fine.
My hope for there being a God is something that is not a belief. I thought like hoping for something, you could like say it's likely to be as in a belief. You know, it's like the same hope and
so
belief.
a hope is a desire for something that is unlikely to be true to be true.
And a belief is something you're certain of?
A belief is something that you think is actually true.
Okay.
Maybe you're not certain, but it's at least something that you think is true. Maybe you're like only 95% confident, but you're like, yeah, I still think that this is true.
Yeah. And so I'm for the thing that the universe was created. Like you can say that the universe was a thing of possibilities. Like there are many universes, and our one was created because there's just the possibility of everything. Or you can say there is something that has to be different, or something that had to be made to create that thing we are living in.
I don't really understand what point you're getting at.
The thing I'm getting at is that hope is connected to like you can either say things happen because there's infinite possibilities, like life, for example, can happen because there's infinite possibilities, and for example the possibilities for life on Earth were very great, so life did happen. Sometimes maybe it's happening somewhere else, but that's not the point. The thing is, the likelihood of something being happen is only the limit of your knowledge. You don't know everything.
Look, so
I say
Yanni,
I believe in something because I think it's likely that we are created. I hope there is something that
Yanni,
created us.
are you trying to convince me to believe that the God that you hope exists?
Yes.
Okay, if you don't even believe it exists, you only hope it exists. How could you ever think that you might convince me to believe that it exists? If you don't even believe it, you just hope it.
Don't we all hope that our understanding of reality is the truth or the most possible thing to happen?
I don't really know what you mean by that. Look, it seems like that you're not particularly certain in your beliefs, so I'm going to let you go, Yanni, but maybe if you get more certain in your belief, we can talk about it later. I do want to bring up one more guest, and that seems like not the best guest to end on. So let's talk to Grinning Tybo. Grinning, how's it going?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Do you believe in a God?
I do believe in a God.
Okay, and which one would that be?
I would say that it aligns more with the Christian God, but
okay.
Yeah,
that's
leave
fine.
it at that.
And so, look, I'm an atheist. So what would you say is the most compelling thing you could offer me as an atheist that would, make me more likely to believe in the God that you believe in?
Well, I think my first point that I kind of wanted to not even bring up, but more just ask is like when it comes to a scientific theory and a scientific hypothesis and whatnot, what deems this to a point where we can say not true?
Where we can say like a scientific theory is not true?
Is true or not true? A theory or hypothesis, because we know a theory is pretty much proven true beyond shadows of doubt, right?
I mean, roughly. So we generally say that, like, I mean, I guess it depends on the scientific field. So like in physics, especially like high energy physics, generally if you have some theory that makes a series of novel predictions, and those novel predictions have been confirmed by experiment, or have been confirmed by experiment with, say 5 sigma of certainty, which accounts for like roughly 1 in 3.5 million odds or something like that, and you have several of them, then I would say that that's probably pretty good evidence that your theory is true.
Okay.
And you would therefore then be well justified to believe that it's true.
Okay, and so then to follow that up would be if we come up to something where someone suggests a hypothesis where we don't necessarily have the tools yet to develop to test this, do we null and void it at that point?
No, generally we would just be agnostic about it. You should be agnostic about it.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean,
Right,
like
right.
maybe there are other reasons why you think that it should be true that haven't been empirically verified. Like maybe there's some theoretical virtues that the new theory has that the old one doesn't have. But I mean, if you're trying to be a scientist about it, then yeah, you should be agnostic until there's evidence to support it.
So my question here now is, do you stand more as agnostic to God or atheist?
Oh, I'm an atheist. I think that there's good
100%.
reason to believe that God doesn't exist, and I don't think that there's very good reason to believe that God does exist. The existence of a God is not a scientific claim, though, right? It's a metaphysical claim, if you will.
Correct. It's mostly philosophical in essence. Really, it's more about regulating your own path through life, I think. But if we start to really look at it, I think placebos where I start to get a little bit thrown off with that is that we can start to prove, and now I'm gonna be real rough on this, but we can start to prove that there's an effect that happens when people are essentially lied to about what they're being given.
Yeah, absolutely. The placebo effect is a real thing.
The placebo effect is a real thing. And so if God is a placebo, the healing that comes from a medication that isn't a real medication, and if we don't know where that healing is coming from, but rather it's just coming from...
But I think we do. I think the placebo effect is like... I think it's like something that's probably been pretty well studied.
Yeah, it's really well studied, and that's why yeah. And I'm reading a comment right now, W for the power of the brain, but that's what I think is so important, is that the crux of God existing in a physical reality of any sort almost doesn't seem to matter to me whether it's real or not, because the God that's been created in our mind has given a placebo effect that's strong enough to change whole realities.
Look, I agree that it might be the case. It's even quite plausible that it's the case that a belief in God, obviously people believe in God. Like, it's true that there exists a belief in God. The question is whether or not God actually exists. That's the whole point. Like, why would I? Like, if I'm interested in believing what's true, I don't care whether or not the belief in a God will be helpful or detrimental or whatever. I care about whether it's true.
Right. So then is the God that has caused a healing in someone, the God of the mind that is in someone's mind has caused a healing through that. Are you essentially saying that? Oh,
it's not a God.
Gosh, let me straighten. What's that?
It's not a God. It's just a person's brain doing brain things.
Right, but as we all believe in a thing that has a higher power over us, we've almost manifested a God of idea.
I don't know what
now.
Wait, you're a Christian, aren't you?
Concept of God. Yes.
So you actually believe that a God exists?
I do believe a God exists.
So why are you trying to convince me that I should believe in like this placebo brain version of a God?
Well, it's not that you need to believe in the placebo brain version of a God. There's no that. It's more so the question of, is that version of God not equally as valid as being the God that we're talking about? Because that God is still the one that created. The one...
Well, no, because these are different things, right? The belief in the belief in a God causing you to have some miraculous turnaround or whatever the placebo effect might be. That thing that you're believing in, or rather the origin of you you going into remission or whatever it might be, the origin is the belief, not the thing itself.
Absolutely.
So one is something that we know that beliefs exist. The other is completely unrelated. Like, the actual God existing is completely unrelated to whether or not the beliefs exist. The beliefs can exist without the God existing, and the God existing can exist without the beliefs existing. So it just doesn't say, it's like, this seems completely unrelated. Like, why should I care about this version of like why should I care about the placebo God when that's not what you believe in? It's not what I believe in. it just seems like it's a complete red herring.
Well, oh, I like that you call that like a red herring, because to me it came up through the conversations with your other guests, I believe. Started with a K earlier, but it was it kind of came in as one of those like, well, there was an argument. Golly, I wish I had taken notes now. There was just an argument made where this seemed like the only thing that kept me still guessing it, like, well, if I was going to argue to an atheist, to something, this would be the question that I'd like to hear their points, because I don't really have much of an argument on this. More so, it was brought up through the other conversations that I was very curious how you would justify the difference between a belief in something existing and something actually existing, and the fact that, like, you know, if someone takes a sugar pill, it's still is doing something, even though it's not something.
Look, lots of kids believe in Santa Claus. Lots of people act better because they believe in Santa Claus. That is completely disconnected from a fat man living at the North Pole.
Yeah. Okay, no, I love that. Thank you.
All right, well, Grinning Typo, I'm going to let you go, but thank you so much for being here.
That's all.
And I'll,
Thank you.
you know, appreciate you. All right, y'all, we should end the live here. I'm going to read some super chats. Before I forget, I want to read, so Jakub Krajnianski sent $15 on Buy Me a Coffee, and I appreciate that. He said, thank you for your very educational content. Well, I appreciate you too. And Shay sent $10 on Cash App for That Don't Work Like That, Fibonacci, probably. All right, we have some super chats to read as well. Sir Gene with the $2. Clint's Reptiles on YouTube, evolutionary biologist. Oh, okay. I'll take a look, maybe. Drew Keffer with the $20. Thank you for the $20, Drew. Supporting The Habit. Thanks for the live debates. The Habit? Oh, well, I appreciate it regardless. Ben Jones with the $5. Thank you so much, Ben. NDE, counting the hits and ignoring the misses. My coworker was in a terrible car accident, near death, 2x. Experienced nothing. What about these experiences? Yeah, that's a good point. That's the point. Oh, I'm the habit. Oh, I'm the habit. Okay, well, I appreciate you, Drew. And Ben, yeah, that's kind of the issue, right? That's the issue. Like, why is it? Why is it that only some people get NDEs? And I wonder if you take people from, like, why is it that the NDEs correspond quite strongly with the culture that somebody grew up in? That's kind of weird. And we got $10 from Zachary. I love the respectful guests. NDE conversation was enjoyable to listen to. Glad you're feeling better. I'm glad I'm feeling better. And thank you for the $10, Zach. Now we have $100 from Kung Pao Chicken. Thank you so much, Kung Pao. I'm sorry I didn't get to you. I saw your name, but I didn't remember that you had donated so much in the past and that you wanted to talk. And I should have brought you up. I appreciate it regardless. But Kung Pao Chicken sends, science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. Einstein. I tried to jump on, but didn't make the cut this time. Haha, looking forward to our discussion one day. Is that a real quote? Because people quote Einstein all the time, and most of the time it's not real. So let's see if it's real. I don't actually know if that, okay, so, is this real? Okay, I guess it is. It is a real quote. Like a year before he died. But to be clear, what's interesting is that, okay, so actually here's the full version. Okay, so he didn't actually say those words, but that's like a summary of the claim. Yeah, okay. And then €2 from Mindos. Explain like I'm 5 why it's so hard to unify the forces. That is a good question. Essentially, there's no evidence that the strong nuclear force actually unifies with the other quantum forces, electromagnetism and the weak nuclear force. Like, we have like some like inklings that that's the case, and then we don't even know how to make gravity quantum, let alone unify it with anything. Yeah, so anyway, I think that we should probably actually let me just show you guys what Einstein said really quick, just so then you believe me. Here we go. Here's the full quote. If one conceives of religion and science in accordance to these definitions, then a conflict between them appears impossible, for science can only ascertain what is, but not what should be, and outside of its domain value, judgments of all kind remain necessary. Religion, on the other hand, deals only with evaluations of human thought and action. It cannot justifiably speak of facts and relationships between facts. According to this interpretation, the well-known conflicts between religion and science in the past must all be ascribed to a misapprehension of the situation which has been described. So, like... I guess he does say it. Never mind. It's just later. So I cannot conceive of a genuine scientist without a profound faith. The situation may be expressed by an image. Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. And so, like, that's great. Einstein also thought that religion was silly, right? This is like something that's like well attested to. He thought that any sort of like organized religion was silly. So I don't know. Einstein's religiosity is quite contentious. Suffice it to say, he was definitely not a Christian. He was definitely not a believer in a personal God. All right, we have a few more super chats, and then we'll call it there. The current unicorn definition, $7 from Kyle Cochran, by the way. The current unicorn definition is different to when the books were written. Back then, the unicorn is referring to a one-horned rhinoceros. Well, yeah, but I'm talking about the unicorn that you and I mean. And from the Bible Guy Official, thank you, Dalton. If you're not subscribed to Dr. Blitz's YouTube, you might need to be psychologically evaluated. Get on it, people. Yeah, guys, get on it. All right. Now, before I go, I should remind you that there's a Discord server. If you're 18 years old or older, you can join the Discord server. You can get announcements for all sorts of things, cool things, like videos I put out, live streams that I do, those kinds of things. And we also have a new-ish at this point, an administrator, Lilith, who's currently running the Discord server and doing a great job at it. So thank you to Lilith for running the Discord server and organizing all of the mods, both on YouTube and in the Discord server. The Discord, you can find the link in the link tree in my bio. You can also find the link in the description of the YouTube video if you're watching on YouTube. And remember, if you want to get access to all of the neat emojis, if you want access to my debate notes, it's like $4 or $5 a month on either Patreon or on YouTube, either YouTube channel. All right, y'all. I will see you guys tomorrow for some more debates. I'm going to go make myself some coffee.